Are you looking to get the absolute most out of money.com? Well, you're in the right place because in this video, I'm sharing 99 tips that will make you faster and more productive in monday.com. Hey, I'm Patrick, and over the last 6 years, I've worked with more than 150 businesses to build their systems in monday.com. And if you need help with the custom implementation, you can reach out to me via the link in the description below. And if you want to receive free tips like the ones that you will see today on a weekly basis, you can sign up for my free newsletter, also in the description below. So without further ado, let's get started. I've created 10 categories of tips so you can easily jump to the ones you find most interesting. You can use the timestamps in the video below to jump to the category you like most. The first tips will be more beginner friendly and it will gradually become more complex and challenging, so keep that in mind. So the 10 categories are board organization, notifications and communication, permissions and admin settings, miscellaneous helpful tips, workforms, CRM, data and dashboards, automations, apps, and AI. So those are the 10 categories. Let's get started. So the first tip is schedule updates for the future. And I'll show you why that is interesting. So when you go to Monday and you click on something like this, you obviously see your updates. And now when you want to type something such as testing, you can click on this drop-down arrow and it will allow you to send the message at a later time, such as tomorrow at 9 a.m. This is very helpful because if you're working on a weekend or in an evening and you don't really want people to know that, then you can easily schedule it for tomorrow morning so they think you're working during work hours while you're actually not. Another thing that's important to know for tip 1 is that you can find all your scheduled updates in one place. You can go to your inbox icon here at the top, click there and click here on the top right, scheduled, and you'll see everything, all the tasks and all the updates that you have scheduled. Okay, tip 2 is about pinning columns. If you have a lot of columns, just like the example here, or you have like hundreds of columns in a board, you might want to see a few columns when you're scrolling to the right. So let's say in this case, I want to see who is responsible for item 1 at any given time. If I scroll to the right, the person column is now gone, but it can stay there. It can be sticky by using a pinned column. So if you click on the 3 dots here, and then you click on the pin columns button, then you can select which column you want to pin. And it can also be multiple columns. In my case, it's only the person column. So I click here, and as you can see, it's now sticky if I scroll. If you want to save this setting, you can click Save as New View, and it will show up here in your table view. You can give it a different name, such as pinned columns. And now if I scroll here to the right, it will stay there. If I now switch to the main table, it's not there. So that's how you pin columns. And as I said, you can pin multiple columns and save them all in your view. Tip 3 is about default item values. Let's say you're in a board like this and it's your personal to-do list. Then you always want to assign your tasks to you. But every single time you create a new item, it's just, another manual step to click here and assign yourself. So why don't we automate this? Well, you can do so by clicking on these 3 dots and then clicking on this icon, default item values. Here you'll see a list of all your columns and you can set a default value. For example, person is always Patrick. And status is, for example, always working on it. Could be the case. You can even also set like a standard priority, such as always medium. And then if you scroll to the bottom and click save, you can save these settings. Now, if I create a new task, let's say task 5, you'll see that after a few seconds, it will automatically populate these fields with the values you've entered in the default item values settings. And that's it. Tip 4 is about conditional coloring. Conditional coloring means that we're going to give a cell or a whole row a certain color when something happens. Let me show you an example. If we go to this board and we want to see a red color when a task is overdue, we can actually do something like that. Just click on these 3 dots and click on conditional coloring. Then you're going to set up something similar to a filter. First, you're going to determine what needs to get a color. Is it the cell? So is it one specific column like this one? Or is it the whole row? I usually like row, but it depends on what you're trying to do. Then you give it a color. Let's say in this case, we want it red because a task is overdue. We actually want to notify people. And we say when a date is, for example, it could be in the past, could be in the future, in a past dates. So it has been, it's in the past. Then you click Save as New View. And as you can see, now all the tasks that are in the past, with a date in the past, are marked as red. So, we could do something like this. If I now turn it into June 11th, you'll see it's not red anymore. Now you can also add multiple. So let's say with new condition here, let's say we also want to make it maybe yellow if the date is today, as like an example for, hey, warning, make sure you actually finish this today because the due date is today. And as you can see, this one turned already yellow because today is 7th of June and this date is set to 7th of June. You can use this logic for almost all the columns that you want. So you could also be when a status column is a certain thing or when a certain column is empty. You can do a lot of different things. And as I said, you can also change it from row to cell, and then it will only show the cell in red. It's a little less obvious, but sometimes it's helpful. So this is a great tip to make your boards more interesting and helpful. Tip 5 is about organizing your workspace with folders and subfolders. Let me show you what I mean. On the left-hand side, if you have a ton of different boards, it becomes very messy. So you can use things like folders. In my case, I have, for example, a folder called testing. Let's create a new folder together by clicking on the blue plus icon and typing or searching for folder. Let's give it a name, such as folder 1. And in this folder, you can drag and drop your boards. So we can close the folder and open the folder. Of course, very helpful if you want to keep things organized. But let's say we have a folder called events. And, we have events for the future and events for the past. And we don't want to, have them in the same list. Then if you click on these three dots, you can actually click create in folder and create another folder. So we'd go for events in the past and we create another one. Let's call it events in the future. By doing this, you can just drag and drop your boards into a subfolder. So if you close the complete folder, you'll see nothing. But if you only want to see the boards in the future, you just make sure that your boards in the future folder is open. And this is how you can keep things very organized. Tip 6 is actually also related to folders, because at some point you have a lot of different folders and things can become messy as well. So what you can do with folders is you can right click or you can click on the three dots and then change the color to something that's, that you want. So for example, maybe the events are green, the events in the past are red, and the events in the future are blue. Oh, let's click it again, blue. By doing this, it's very easy to see what's going on because you're using colors and it's easier to see for the eye. So this is something I would highly recommend if you want to keep things organized. Tip 7 is about the favorite section. It's one of my favorite tips that I think people are not using enough, so please pay attention. If you have a lot of boards, or if you have boards in multiple workspaces, it might become a bit messy that you keep searching for the right board. What I like to do is using the favorite section to, mark my favorite boards as my favorite. So if I click here, you will actually see all my favorite boards. And the great thing about the favorite section is that you can also create folders within this. So let's start with the basics. How do you add something to the favorite section? Well, you go to a board like this one, you click on the three dots or you right click and you click add to favorite section. Now, if I click here, you saw a nice little thing happening. And if you click favorites, you'll now see the example board here. I can easily switch between boards from here and I easily can get back to my initial board. Now, if I want to have favorites, but I also want to keep this organized, I can put my boards into a certain folder. It works similar to creating a folder in a folder. Next to favorites, you click on the three dots and you click new folder. And as you can see, a new folder was generated. Now, in the favorite section, you cannot create folders in folders, so keep that in mind. And you cannot give them a color. So those are two limitations of the favorite sections at the time of recording. However, I think having folders and just, organizing it like this is already super helpful and can save you a lot of time searching for the right boards. Tip 8 is also about navigating boards and folders more easily. Also very helpful is using emojis in board titles. It made things way more obvious to click on. So for example, let's say events in the past are something that you're really proud of, that you might want to have some sort of like champion type of emoji. So you can go to a website like getemoji.com and you can do something like a trophy. And maybe there's a trophy one. There you go, trophy. You can click on it, click copy. And if I now go to the board, I can click on the three dots, rename it, and just add a trophy like this. And this is actually super helpful to find the right board very quickly. Tip 9 is also one about emojis. It's using emojis in a status column. So as you can see here, we have a status column. And if you want to, make things a little bit more fun, or if you just want to use emojis in general, just click here, click edit labels, and just add an emoji wherever you want. So for example, I have this emoji, I can paste it here. And you can do whatever emojis you want. Same thing here. It makes things easier to look at, easier to find, and just a lot more fun. You can turn your date column in a deadline column by clicking here and then going into settings and marking it as a deadline. In my case, it's turned on, so I say remove deadline mode. But if it's not a deadline yet, you can click set deadline mode. In that case, you'll see here if it's, if we've met the deadline or not. In this case, we have a task that's overdue, so it shows a warning sign. But let's say you have something like an abandoned stage. In that case, you don't want to see it as like a deadline that you didn't meet anymore because you decided to abandon the task. So if I click here, you'll still see that we're not meeting a deadline. And if I click done, you'll see that we actually do have a deadline. It's green, but we have, completed it a little bit too late, only 104 days. So let's say you also want to see this when a status is set as abandoned. Then you click here next to the status column on the 3 dots, go to settings, and you go to customize status column. There you'll see at the bottom, choose which colors to indicate that an item is completed. In my case, orange also needs to complete a task. So I clicked it like this. And if I now click somewhere else, it will close. And if I now mark a task as abandoned, it will actually be, considered a completed task. One thing you also notice is that you'll see the animations of like a happy thing. So apparently, if you abandon a task, it's a good thing. In some cases, that's the case. In my case, for this example, that's actually what we want. There might be other examples where this is super helpful, but especially with the deadline mode in your date column, it's very important that you set your status to the right things. You'll also see this with filters. So for example, you can filter on things, on tasks where a deadline is not met. So if we're still waiting, if the deadline date is due, then it will show up. But if a task is abandoned, you don't want it to show up. Therefore, it's very important to set the right status labels as completed. Tip 11 is about filtering boards with all the tasks that are assigned to you, but making sure that if your colleague logs in, that your colleague only sees the tasks that are assigned to him or her. Well, this is how you do it. Go to your board and click on filter. If you have a person column or a people column, you'll see it showing up here. If you scroll, maybe it's a little bit more to the right, but you'll find it there. Then the top one is actually called Me Dynamic, which means that if I'm looking, I will see my task. And if my colleague John is looking, John will only see the tasks that are assigned to John. So let's click Me. And as you can see, it now only filters. It only shows the tasks that are assigned to me. So this is great. And if I were to save this filter, so here on the top right, save as a new view, I can see here table showing up. And if I rename it to assigned to me, and then I click on this 3 dots and click on, where is it, pin view, then everyone who opens this board for the first time will automatically go to this board view. And the great thing about it is that they will only see the tasks that are assigned to them. If you don't see this filter, you can also click filter here and go to the bottom right to the advanced filters. And here's the same thing. You'll just choose your column, your person column, and say is, and then me. But you can also, of course, do something like is not me to all see all the tasks that are not related to you. So me is just one of the options. As you can see here, Me Dynamic, that's the one you need. And that will automatically show you all the tasks that are assigned to you, but it's dynamic based on who is looking at the board. Great tip. Number 12 is about My Work. It's one of the features most people don't even know about, so I'll love to tell you about it. On the top left of Monday, you see something called My Work. And My Work is basically your own board, but it will only show all the tasks from all the boards combined, but only the ones that are assigned to you. So you'll basically see all the tasks of all the boards that are assigned to you. If you click on My Work, you'll see something like this. You'll see tasks that are, in the past, tasks you need to do today, this week, and next week. You see some more information like the group, the board, who is assigned, the date, status, priority. There's a few things you can do here. And you can actually customize this a little bit. So, for example, in this case, I only see all the tasks that are, assigned to me. And I'll show you in a second how to do some things with it. But let's first look at what you can do from here. It's very similar to a normal board. So I can change things. So I can change, for example, a task and say, I'm done. If you have set up a priority column, you can also set a priority. And you can also assign other people. But if you click on it, you will actually be able to see all the columns of that specific board. You will also be able to see your update section and your item views. So you'll see quite a lot actually. Another way to showcase your data, if you don't like to see it in this way, is to see it by something else. So here on the top right, you see date view. You can, view it by other things, such as by the status. You can also view by priority. You can view by board. So if you have, for example, each client has their own board, super helpful to see tasks for each client. And just one single list view. If you like to have everything in one place, that's where you would go. I personally like the date view to basically see what I need to do. Another thing is that you can showcase data in a calendar view like this. So if you click calendar, it will show up. You'll see all the tasks. You could do on a monthly basis, daily basis, weekly basis, whatever you prefer. And from here, you can also click and open it. If you want to make some changes, you can do so by clicking customize on the top right. And here you can do a few things. First, on the general tab, you can change who you want to see the tasks for. In my case, for all the application engineers, but I can also add myself. I can remove, for example, an application engineer. Now I only see the tasks that are related to me. You can also do this for colleagues, of course. You can decide to filter out certain boards. So as you can see, all the boards that I have tasks on are connected. But if I don't want to see activities, I can just click and it will be removed from this My Work section. Then I have a status column. For each board, I can determine which status column should show up here. There you go. So very helpful, especially if you have multiple status columns in your boards. So as you can see, you can use different status columns. Same thing for sub items, by the way, because they will also show up here. The same thing is true for date. So select which column should be used for a date. And for priority, same thing. One setting I really like is hiding done items, because I don't want to make it a big mess in my work section. So I just like to hide all the items that are done, because they are done. I don't want to see them anymore. There's also something about customized color matching, column matching. I won't go too in depth on this, but that's not really for this tip. There's some other stuff. A table view, you can make a few changes. As you can see, it now looks like this, but some people like to see more of a context view where there's more information. Great for using, if you use sub items a lot, I actually quite like this view, but some people don't. You can also decide to hide empty groups. So let's say you don't have tasks for today, just hide it and you don't see your task for today. I don't like this feature as much for the date view, but it could be helpful for a priority view or a status view. Then on the top right, you also have calendar. You can make a few changes here, like what do you want to color your things by, what do you want to label it by, and a few additional settings that you can just play around with. Tip 13 is about sharing boards via a public URL. Maybe you have a client or a stakeholder that needs to have access to a board. They need to see the latest update, but you don't want to give them guest access because they shouldn't be able to see anything. Then this board is actually great. So let me show you. If you're in a board like this one and you want to share it with your client or someone else, you can actually go to your view, the one that you want to share, click on the three dots and click Share View. There you'll see this information. You might need to click Start here, but it might already have started and it will show something like this. And as you can see, we have a shareable link, which is a link that we can share with people, and an embed code. So if you want to put it on your website, that's also possible. It's important to read these three things. Some people can still see certain things, but if you want to share everything, that's fine. And to be honest, most people are not tech savvy enough to play around with this, but they will only always be able to see the stuff in this specific board. So let's click copy, and I'll open this in a separate tab so you can see what it looks like for external people if they're not logged in. It will start loading the board, and as you can see, it will just show the board like normal, but I cannot change anything. I cannot see any conversations. I cannot click. I cannot change anything. That's not possible. Another great thing about this feature is that you can also share a certain board view. So let's say you only want to show all the tasks with a high priority. First, you create a filter, and you filter for all the tasks with the high priority, like this, and you save it as a new view by clicking here. Now the view will show up here, and we'll just change the name to high priority. Then you click the three dots and you click share view. This will also generate a link. If I now open this one incognito, you will actually see the view that I just created with only the high priority tasks, as you can see. And if I were to change this, it's completely live. So let's say we add a task high priority, and priority is high. And if I now open it, the board, and I refresh it, you'll see that this new task shows up in this board. You can do the same thing with other columns. So you can, for example, hide the label and numbers and timeline column. That's also possible. Let me show you how to do it. If you click hide, and you hide, for example, priority, label, let's say everything else, and we save it to this view. If I go back to here and I refresh, once again, you'll only see everything in this view. Keep in mind, as the notification already showed, some tech-savvy users will still be able to see the other columns because the data is still there. So keep that in mind. So don't put too sensitive data here, but you can definitely make use of this and share it with other people. Tip 14 is about adding descriptions to columns. And this is actually super helpful because sometimes you have some columns that need some instruction. And you can do that by adding descriptions. So let's say this status column needs to have an instruction. You can click here on the three dots and click settings, hover over settings, click add description, and it will show a text column. So let's say only mark this as stuck if you've genuinely tried. Save. Now, as you can see, this information icon shows up. And if I click on it, I can actually see the information we've just added. This is super helpful for a lot of reasons. For example, maybe people are only allowed to mark a task as a critical priority if it has to be done within an hour, or if it's like breaks everything. And stuff like that. That's super helpful with column descriptions. There's also another place where you can place descriptions, which is on the board view, in the board. If you click here, you will actually see the description here as well. So I can say this is a test. And now everyone that opens this board will be able to see that this is a test. Most people overlook this, they don't see it, but it can be helpful. I do especially like the column description, so use it to your advantage and good luck with it. Tip 15 and the last tip about board organization is about searching through a board. You might think that if you click here and you search, well, it already shows up, but if you search that you can search through everything in the board, which is true, but if you have too many columns, some columns will be excluded from the search by default. So if I type item 1 will show up. If I type done task will show up. If I type high priority task will show up. However, if I click here on the search options, you'll see that these are all the columns it searches in, which means every single column that I have right now can be searched through, which is great. But if you have too many, they will be turned off like this. And then, let's use priority as an example. If I type high right now, nothing will show up. Well, high because it shows high in the text. But if it didn't do that, nothing would show up. So if I click here, what I would recommend is that you only select the columns that are most valuable to search for. Because if you have columns that are irrelevant to search through, it will actually make it slower to load. So let's say you only always want to search through the names and you have 40 different columns and hundreds or even thousands of items, it makes it way faster to only search through 1 or 2 columns. So I highly recommend, especially in boards with a lot of items, that you change this and make sure it's set as expected and the fastest way for you, which means only add the columns that you want to search through, and all the other ones, turn it off. This will make searching fast. And on the other hand, if you have a board with too many columns, make sure that you check this, because if you want to search through some columns, it might be turned off automatically. If you like these board organization tips, you'll definitely love my weekly free Monday.com newsletter. I share on a weekly basis some tips and tricks about Monday.com and some of the newest features, so you can make most out of the platform and be as productive as possible. So if that sounds interesting, sign up for free through the link in the description. Now up next, notifications and communication tips. Let's go. Tip 16 is about default notification settings. You might have noticed it, but when you join Monday for the first time, you'll be bombarded with notifications. And you can actually turn this off for all your new team members. Let me show you how. So first of all, you go to the top right and you click on Administration. There, if you go to Customization, you'll see User Notifications. Here you see email notifications. So click there. And you can actually see everything that people get a notification from. By default, this is literally all turned on. Usually this is way too much. So I like to turn off most of them. For example, I like to turn off, this one, but I really like this one, mentions me in a post or reply. I also don't like these, I don't like these, I don't like these, and actually I don't like most of them. I do like this one, notifies me via automations. So yeah, I would probably just turn off most of them, but you can decide this yourself. I've actually created a whole video about Monday notifications, so if you're interested in that and what I usually recommend for your team, I would highly recommend checking it out. Bookmarking updates. When you work with Monday a lot, you might use the update feed. So if you click there, you actually see all the updates. You can see all the ones you're mentioned in, or just all the updates in general of your account. If you find one specific update very important, you can bookmark it for later. You can do so by clicking on the 3 dots here and then clicking Bookmark to Update Feed. If you click there and you go to your bookmarked section here at the top, you'll actually see all your bookmarked updates. I really like this because every now and then you just have a message that you just need to save, and this is a great way to save these updates. Tip 18 is about the update inbox and how I would actually recommend you to use it. So if you go to the update inbox, you'll see, a few things that you can choose. I always go to the I was mentioned section. And in this section, you will see all the updates that you're, assigned in. And on the left-hand side, you will see it by board. You can see some more updates if you click here from unread to read. And here you'll instantly see all the updates you're mentioned in. Then, if you have never marked it as read, you can actually click here on the blue icon to mark it as I read it. Like I don't have to check it again. And I actually love this feature. Like every single day, I will just go to my unread updates and we'll just look at all the ones that I haven't read before. Then I'll either like them or reply from here. And I'll click read to make sure that I, have read it and don't have to look at it again. It's a great way to keep track of all your communication with your team and with your clients within Monday, so I would highly recommend that you use it. Tip 19 is about the board update section. Every now and then you need to communicate not about a specific task, but about a specific project or specific client. That's where board updates come in. Here on the top right, you'll see an update section. If you click there, you'll see something you're familiar with, just a normal update section. However, this is for the board. So maybe if this is a client's board, you want to add all the client-related updates here. Or if it's an events board, maybe all the bigger event-related updates. It's super helpful. It's a place where you can combine all those messages, and you can chat here as well, just like you would do in a normal update section. So I would highly recommend that you play around with it and you check it out. 20 is about the activity log. You can instantly see who has done what to a certain task. So let me show you what I mean. If I open a task like this one by clicking on it, I actually see an activity log here. If I click there, I can look in the past and see who has made what change. So in this case, I can see that Patrick has made a change by adding a person, specifically Patrick. And he's done that 32 minutes ago on June 7th. This is super helpful if someone has made a change, but you don't know who or what or why or when. So I would recommend playing around with it. You can also click here to filter by person. You can filter also by specific things, such as time or what column has been changed. And you can actually export it to Excel if you really want to figure out what's going on. So that's something to keep in mind. That's it for the notifications and communication section of this video. I will now go into the permissions and admin settings section of this video with a lot of interesting tips. Let's go. So let's kick it off with one of the most important settings, which are your board permissions. If you don't change these correctly, someone might break your whole board, so please pay attention. In a board, if you go to the top right and click on the three dots, you actually have permission settings. So click there and you will see something like this, which will show you the permission settings. The most important thing to look at is this drop-down thing. If you click here, there are 4 options. Basically, you can say, what does someone who is a member of a board, so not an admin, who's a member of a board, be able to change? Most of the times, it's set to edit everything by default, which means they can change columns, they can remove columns, they can rename columns, they can do a lot that can break your whole board and your workflow. I don't recommend that. I would always recommend to put this on only edit content, because they will only be allowed to edit content and not change the board structure. You can also make it even more strict by only letting them edit items they are assigned to, or they can only view and comment. So use the right one in the right situation. When you have selected something, click on the bottom right on save, and it will show you what's been saved or what's going to be saved. Click save, and that's it. Now you've applied the changes. Tip 22 is about setting the default labels for a new status column. So by default, when you open a status column, it will have working on it, stuck, done, and a gray label. But you can change this if you want to. Let me show you how. Go to the top right and click on administration. Then on the left-hand side, click on customization and click on boards. There you will see, the standard section or the standard labels. Let's say you always want to have a label called to do and a label called waiting for management, or maybe something like abandoned. You can do it like this, and you can add as many as you want. You can drag and drop them around. Well, let's just click Save Changes. Now, if we go back and we were to add a new status column, like this, you'll see that all these new labels have been applied automatically. Super helpful if you create status columns quite often and you want to make sure that they're all the same. Tip 23 is about column permissions. For each column, you can determine if your users are able to view them and if they're able to edit them. Let me show you what that means. So let's say nobody is allowed to change the priority section, only the people who are an admin of the board. What you can then do is click on the 3 dots, go to settings, and click restrict column editing. Here you will see a list of all the people that can edit the column. By default, only the admins can change the column. So if you want to add someone, you can just type their name here, like John Doe. As you can see, now both me and John are able to edit this column. Nobody else will be able to edit it. Another option, which will adjust with this label column, is that you can not allow them to view a specific column. So let's click here, click settings, and then click on restrict column view. If you do this, a small icon with an eye shows up, and it will show you everyone that can basically see it. So as you can see, the column is hidden for some users. If you click here, you can actually make sure that some people are added so they can see it. Great for sensitive information, such as a salary of a person. Maybe your whole team is allowed to see the whole employee directory, but not the salary of each colleague. So that's where you can use this. So you can add teams, or you can add specific people who are allowed to see a column. If you make sure that they cannot hide it, of course, that they cannot see it, they of course cannot edit it either, because they are not allowed to see it. So keep that in mind. And you can easily see if it's either hidden or restricted by these small little icons. So those are the tips. Tip 24 is about managed columns, and I'll show you what that means. Let's say we have a status column like this label one, and we have created it in a way that, it's perfect for our business. And we actually want to make sure that this specific label column shows up in many different boards. And if it changes in one board, it also automatically changes on all the other boards. Well, you can do that by first creating a normal status column by doing it like this. So let's go to status. And as you can see, it will be generated. Now we click here on the three dots and actually we mark it as a managed column. Let me put myself to the left. There you go. Save it as a managed column. We can give it a name such as super special managed column. And we can even add a description if we want to. Then we click next and we can actually, still adjust the labels. So which colors indicate it's complete? Where do we want to show everything? Do we want to readjust it? All fine. But then we can click save. Now it's a managed column and we can actually instantly create a board or choose a board where we want to paste it. So let's do that. Let's put it in a different board. Let's use the HX column board, and click add and go to board. Now it, as you can see, automatically pasted this super special managed column here. And it's actually, perfect. It has the exact same columns. Super helpful. If you want to, you can always detach it as a managed column. So let's say this one needs to be more special. We don't want it, we want to adjust it here, but we don't want to adjust it in other boards. Then you can actually click here and click detach from managed column. So that's super helpful to do. If you're now in a different board, let's say this board, and you also want to add this managed column, you can do so by clicking here and you will see this new thing, managed columns. So click there and you will actually see a list of all the managed columns that you have in your account. In my case, I can either click here to edit it, or I can just add it to the board. And as you can see, the super special managed column is now also showing up on this board. That's great. And if I want to change it here, it will automatically change it in the other places as well. So let's say we want to remove done and want to change it to completed. We can do it like this. As you can see, these are all the boards that are affected. Save changes. And now all the boards, as you can see here, completed. If I go to HX, it also is marked as completed. So that's how managed columns works. Super helpful, and I would recommend that you use them. Keep in mind, on the Pro plan, you can only use 3 of these managed columns. And on the Enterprise plan, I think it's unlimited. Tip 25 is an enterprise-only tip, so keep that in mind. It's actually a super nice one though, so let me show you. It's called Manage Templates. Let's say you have this board, and it's a client board. And every time you create a new client, you use that template, which is great. In the past, each template would be their own thing. And if you would make a change to one template, the changes wouldn't show up on the other ones. So that's a bit annoying for all the existing boards. Now we have a new feature called Manage Template. If you right click on a board or you click on the 3 dots, you can save it as a template as you're used to. So let's click there. Now it has 2 options. Move the origin to a template center and duplicate the origin. I won't go into too much detail, but basically if you duplicate it, it will keep showing up in your workspace and also in the template center. And if you move it, it will be removed from your workspace and will only show up in your template center. You can play around with both. It depends which one you need to use in which situation. Let's click next. And here you will see it. Standard template, which is normal one, or managed template. And as you can see here, editing this template will update it anywhere it is used. So if you add a column, it will show the column on all the boards. So let's click next. Give it a nice name, managed template example. And either choose if the template is public or private. I'll just make it public. Click create template, which usually takes a few seconds. There you go, so it's now done with loading. And as you can see, it shows up as a template. I can change this template by going to edit a new tab, or I can just use the template. So let's just use this one for the example. Use it and grant access. Now it will create that board, which also usually takes a few seconds or up to a minute or so, depending on how complex your board is. There you go. The first board is created from this template. And as you can see, this is an instant managed by a template. So we know that this is actually, a managed template, and you can easily find it from here. This means that if we were to change this template, it will change it everywhere. So let's go back to the template center by clicking here and going to the template center. Here we'll find everything created by me, which includes the manage template example. Well, let's just edit it now, and let's add a new column. So let's add a column called numbers, and we'll call it test number. Now we publish the changes, and you can actually share this as a message with other people to say what has changed and why. We publish the changes, and this will also take a few seconds depending on how many changes and how many templates you have created from this major template. So let's wait a few seconds. As you can see, it's now done. The changes are published. So let's go back to the work management board. And I actually want to see our new example board. The example board that we created should now be updated. So if we scroll to the right, as you can see, we now have the test number column, which would be added to all the boards that we have created from this template. So long story short, one template, you create a lot of small child boards, that's what they would call it, children. And if you make a change to the initial template, each of the boards that have been created so far will automatically be adjusted. There are still a few limitations here. I think as of now, it doesn't automatically copy and paste all the automations, but this is some stuff they are working on and will be added pretty soon. Tip 26 is about changing the item terminology. Maybe you don't want to have the word item here and here, because it's a bit confusing for your team. Like, what is an item? Maybe it's a task. Maybe it's a project. So let's change that. When you go to the top right and you click on the three dots, you can actually go to settings and then click on change item terminology. Here you can choose a few presets like employees, leads, or creatives, but you can also add your own. So let's do that. Let's call this one a test. Every single thing on this board is a test. So if we click change, you'll see here we have a new test, and it's a group of tests. We have new test or add test here as well. And this sounds like a silly small thing, but it's actually very helpful to make it easier for your team to navigate through Monday. Those were all the tips related to permissions and admin settings. We're first going to the miscellaneous helpful tips before we dive into the even more advanced stuff. So let's dive into that right now. Tip 27 is about using Monday docs in a board and specifically using templates to make your life easier. Let me show you. So let's first go here and add a Monday doc column. So we type doc, and as you can see, we have a Monday doc. This could be anything. It could be, for example, a project briefing. And by default, if you click here, it will use a template. And you can actually choose that template yourself by clicking on these three dots, going to settings, and setting a doc template. Here you will see the template that you're going to set. So make it as pretty and as great as you want to. I'll just use, let's use a project plan as the example. And yeah, that's it. Like, this is perfect for me. Now we close it. And if we were to click here, it will just generate those templates for us. Oh. As you can see, for item 1, we now have a project briefing. There you go, with our template. Same thing for item 2, the project briefing with our template. This is actually super helpful in use situations like this, so I'd highly recommend you play around with it. If you're a fan of using Monday Doc, I will definitely show you a great new tip. So if you go to a board and you click here to add a new board view, you can actually add a doc as a board view. This is super helpful if you want to have a project description about the whole document, or sorry, about the whole board. So this is how you do it. You just click on it like I just did. It generates the doc for you. And same thing here, you can use templates or you can just add some information yourself. You can also refer to text within the board, but that's for some other update later on in the video. So I highly recommend you play around with it. It's super helpful. You can tag people, you can do whatever you want. With slash, you can add a lot of different things. So I'd recommend you to play around with it because it's super valuable to have like a project briefing. So I usually like to have something like this, just called, for example, project briefing. And then everyone always knows that if you want to see everything about the project, first go to the briefing. That's where you'll find the information. Tip 29 is about showing column data in your Monday doc. Let me show you. So let's say we have this project briefing here and we click on it. Now maybe we want to add some information from columns. So let's say date, we want to show the date of this specific column. So what you can do is if you do slash, you can actually mention certain things such as column values. So if we click here, as you can see, it will ask you what kind of column do you want to refer to. So we're going to select the date column. And now it's automatically set to June 7th. If I were to change this, so let's say, we had some problems and therefore it's being done a week later, you can click June 14th. And if I now open the briefing, it will show the latest version because it loads the data from that column. Super helpful. You can do it with many different things. So yeah, just click slash and then there's some stuff that you can mention. You can mention other documents, mention people, but as I said, mention column values is especially interesting, so you can add whatever you want. As you can see, it will also look at callers from your status column. So play around with it. I think it's super helpful. Tip 30 is actually the first AI related tip in this whole video. I know I have an AI section later on in the video, but I just wanted to show it to you because we're now talking about Monday Docs. So within Monday Docs, if you type /AI, it will say, do you want to write with AI? And it's actually super helpful. Let's say you want to create a proposal about Monday.com services where you want to sell a CRM for $5,000, for example. And then we click generate, and it will actually help you to generate a proposal. As you can see, some information, add it to the doc, and boom, that's it. Everything about the proposal that you need to know. Super helpful. I recommend that you play around with it. It makes, making documents a lot faster. And you can also use it multiple times. So maybe this was the proposal. And now we do /AI, write a nice introduction for company ABC before the proposal about the CRM. So you can do it multiple times. Super helpful. Add to doc. There you go. And this is actually how you can create documents really quickly with AI in Monday Docs. Tip 31 is actually a lifesaver if you use drop-down columns with a ton of options. Let me show you. So let's add a drop-down column here and we'll call it states. Or state. In this case, I want to show all the states of the United States that you can choose from. But, to type each one of them, hit enter, and you type again, enter, type again, it will just take a lot of time. So what you can do, in my case, I asked ChatGPT, ChatGPT, to create a list of all the states, like this. And I just copy it, just like you can copy any type of text. I go to the list of states, as you can see here, and create label, and I do Command V to paste it. So everything is pasted automatically in one go. And now, as you can see, each state is in this document. Super fast, super helpful. Tip 32 is about limiting what people can do within a board. In a board like this, you might have a column like state. And with state, you might want them to only select one. So if I click on state, right now I can select multiple. But maybe you want to select only one. Now you might be thinking, well, you can just use the status column. Yeah, but it has some other downsides. So let's say we have a drop-down column and we do want to limit it to one. You can click here and you can click settings, then click customize drop-down column. Here you can limit the selection to an amount of labels. So let's click here and limit it to one. But as you can see, you can also limit it to 2, 3, 4, whatever you want. Now, if I want to select one, I cannot select multiple, as you can see. Super helpful. You can do the same thing with a person column. So let's say we want to select maximum of one person. Click here, click settings, and then you can customize people column. If you click there, you can choose what is allowed. 1, 2, 3, or unlimited. Yeah, play around with it. Choose whatever you like. I always like to have one person responsible for a task. If you like to use multiple, go for it, but you can limit it like this. Tip 33 is about using Monday as like a shared mailbox. You can actually use it very well. Tip 33 is about creating items from an email. In a Monday board, if you go to the top right and you go to settings, there's actually a create items via email option. If you click there, it will show two options. One is an email address that everyone can use, such as your clients to send in new problems, bugs, or requests. Or an internal one where you have a customized address. So it could be, for example, testing at democompany at .monday.com. In my case, I'll use the public one, and I'm going to send an email to show you what it looks like in the board. As you can see, the new email just came in. It was called "This is a test," and if I open it, you can actually see it. This is a test. Hi, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Might be a good idea. And you can see all the information here. Super helpful. It's not super easy to send an email back from here. So if you click reply, the person wouldn't really see it. But it's definitely helpful if you want to, have an email address where people can just send emails and you want to put everything in a board. You can then, for example, use a status column to say, well, I took care of it, or, assign a person who needs to take care of the email. Can be helpful. Some people like it. I've used it a few times. Just a nice little tip. Tip 34 is a little bit more technical. It's about Monday's Workform feature, and there's something called a form tag, which I'm going to show you right now. So let's go into a form and go into the settings of a form. Within the settings on the left-hand side, you see form tags. So let's click there, and it will bring you to the form tags section. As you can see, this is just a normal form URL. If I add a tag like this, I can add some interesting information. So let's do source and mark it as set values. Now, if I click copy link and I were to paste this link here, you can actually see that something was added to the link. It says end source. And here you can add some information. Let's say YouTube, and then click enter. Now, as you can see, within this form, you don't see anything related to the source as YouTube. But if I were to enter this information in the form, so let's add some information, a number that I can probably think of from the Netherlands, and then submit it, what you will see in the main table is that the source was actually captured. And this might sound like a silly feature that you don't ever need, but it's actually super valuable because every now and then you want to add some information to a form URL to figure out where someone came from. So maybe you post this form on your website and one of the tags would be website form or contact page on the website. And then you know that this person came from there without them entering anything. They wouldn't even notice. And that's actually great because then you can use that information in your dashboards to track where people are coming from. Tip 35 is about pre-filling information in a form. If you have a form like I have here, where we ask things like a full name and an email address, well, if you already know that information, it doesn't really make sense to let the user add it again. So if you want to pre-fill that information, it's actually possible. So let's assume this is our CRM and we have, for example, Patrick here. And we already know Patrick's email is test@test.com. Now, if we want him to, send him a form, but we already want to give him, want to pre-fill that email address for him, it's actually possible. Let me show you how. So first, add a formula column. Just a simple, straightforward formula column. That's actually step 1, as you can see. Step 2 is to click here to go to Monday Labs. You type developer to turn on developer mode. If you turn it on, it will probably refresh if you click here, and then it's turned on. Now, what we need to do is go to the form, and we're going to click share form, and we need this URL. So let's copy it and go back to the main table. Now, in the formula, we're going to write the following formula. First, we write concatenate, like this, open bracket, and then we do parentheses, and we do it like this. So we have the text in between those parentheses. Then we do comma, and 2 of them again is, let's say, here we do actually an email. So we go to the columns, and we're going to add the email. And we do set formula. Oh, it actually failed because probably doesn't really need these 2. There you go. Now, what we need to do is we need to make sure that we know what the email column is in the form. So what you can do is you can click these 3 dots and have the column ID here. And if you click there, it copies it. Now, if we go back to the formula and then open the formula and go to settings, customize formula, we see the form URL, and then we see question mark R equals EUC1. That's just some standard information. And then end, so that's what we want to do. End, and then instead of source, which in your case there might not even be an end, you just do the end sign, and then you do the column ID equals, and then you close it, comma, email. So what this does is it tells the form that in this field, which is the email field, you need to pre-fill the email value. So let's click set formula. And if we now were to click this, what you will see is we'll pre-fill the email address for this person. As you can see, test@test.com. If we were to change this, so let's say we go for patrick@test.com, patrick@test.com, and we click now, it will actually pre-fill patrick@test.com, as you can see. And this is super helpful because for each individual line item, it will automatically pre-fill the information. So if you now build an automation that sends this person an email with this URL, that's basically all you would need to do to be able to send pre-filled information. So that's just a little tip. It's a little bit more advanced. Hopefully you liked it. Let's go to the next one. Tip 36 is about converting sub-items to items and items to sub-items. Have you ever had a situation where you were creating like sub-items and you felt like it was the right thing and they were like, well, I should actually turn this into an item. Well, you don't want to copy everything over, it's just a waste of time. So what you can do is you can click here on like the square icons, and you can click there to select them. Then you can click convert to convert it to an item. As you can see, it will tell you something about warning. But if you click continue anyway, it will turn all the sub-items into main items. And you can do the same thing the other way around. So if you first created items and you feel like they should actually be sub-items, just select the sub-items you want to select and click convert. And we're going to convert them to an item, to a sub-item under a specific item. So you just select the right item, let's say item 1. It will ask you to map the right columns to the right thing if you don't want to lose any data. Click move, move anyway, and there you go. Now they are sub-items again. Tip 37 is all about moving items back from the graveyard. If you have archived or removed an item, you can actually get them back. In case of archive, you can always get them back. And in case of deleted items, you can get them back up to 30 days after deletion. Let me show you how. So we're going to delete this item 1 because for whatever reason, we don't like it anymore. Delete, there you go. We're also going to archive item 2. Let's click archive. Now you'd think they are gone. And if you're too slow to click undo, you might need to get them back from the graveyard. So let's go here to the 3 dots at the top right and go to view archive/trash. If you click trash, you'll see all the items in trash. As you can see, item 1 and its sub-items. So you can restore the items and the sub-items if you want to by selecting them and click restore. And as you can see, it's restoring the items. And in a few seconds, there you go. Item 1 is back with all its sub-items. Now let's do the same for the archive. We go to the 3 dots, view archive trash, archive, and once again, you'll find the archived item. If you have a lot of them, you can filter them. You can search through the archive through months and years. But in my case, it's pretty simple. We can just click here and restore it. So let's restore the archived item, and there you go, it's back. And that's how you restore archived and deleted data. Tip 38 is about easily adding tasks to your board from your mobile device. I use an iPhone, but you can do the same from an Android phone. And the great thing is they have a widget where you can easily add tasks. Let me show you how it works. First, hold your screen so you can actually go to the edit settings where you can add a new widget. On the top left, click edit and then click add widget. There you type Monday, and as you can see, it shows up. Here you scroll to the right completely and it shows this widget to add an item. So let's click add widget. Now the widget shows up in my screen. If I now click, it will actually open Monday, but it will instantly allow me to add an item. So I can add, for example, test and click add. And this is super helpful because it basically allows me to create a task while I'm on the go. And this is great because, when I'm, for example, in a car and I'm like, I have an idea, then I can just ask my girlfriend, hey, can you please type a task here to put that instantly in Monday? And then later, while I'm in the office, I can actually get back to those tasks or ideas and actually process them and do something with them. So, great tip. I actually love the widget, and I think it's a great tip. Tip for your mobile phone If you're in the Monday app, you can actually leave voice notes. So if you're a fan of voice notes, you'll love this one. Just go to the Monday app, go to any board or any update section by clicking on an item or going through there for your My Work. Then in the update section, which you can see here, you can actually create an update. But if I click on the plus icon, it actually allows me to record audio, as you can see at the bottom of my screen. Now I can record some audio by holding it. So let's do test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 blah. And if I hold it, as you can see, it will now automatically upload the file. I can send it, and now I can easily send voice notes to my team through the Monday app. I think it's quite a cool feature. Hopefully they add automatic transcription in the future, so you don't have to, listen to all the recordings all the time. But I think it's a great first step. The next tip is for everyone who likes dark mode. There's actually a great way to switch between light mode and dark mode of Monday, and I'll show you how it actually works. So if you go to Monday and you click on the top right, you can change this theme here, as you can see. There are 3 options: light, dark, night, and then you also have system default. I prefer the light mode most of the time, but every now and then I need to, work in an evening, and then I feel like the dark mode actually works better, so I can switch to dark. And sometimes I actually like night mode. However, the easiest way, in my opinion, is to just switch to system default, because whenever your computer switches to dark mode, everything else can also switch to dark mode, including Monday. So maybe at 8 p.m. you want to switch to dark mode, and then Monday will automatically adjust for you. The next step is for everyone who always wants to know what the latest feature is of Monday.com. One of those people is myself. I actually love to see what they're, uploading and updating in the platform. And there's actually a great page to see everything. Next to, of course, subscribing to the newsletter that I put out, because I always put out some new stuff and I'll tell stuff about the newest features. But if you want to really know exactly what's going on right when it's released, you should go to monday.com/what's-new. Filter by type, by product, by plan, by benefit. And you can click on anything and figure out what it is. So for example, you can read more about AI and credits, and they'll tell you everything about it. I actually love this page. Sometimes it also inspires me to see what's going on and see if there's some interesting new stuff I can add to my clients' accounts. So I'd recommend to check it out every now and then and see if there's new features that are beneficial for you and your team. Tip 42 is about a great place to get inspired by what you can and should build in your boards. It's something called Monday Spaces, and you can find it through the website mondayspaces.com. It's an official monday.com website, and it's all about templates from other creators. So if you go to the page, you actually see a lot of different things. You can filter through things. You can, scroll down and see some interesting stuff. So for example, if you want to know, let's use a company-wide workspace. Maybe that's something you're working on. Or I see OKR tracking, OKR advanced workflow. There's some interesting things that you might be able to use here. So let's click on one. And as you can see, it will have some information, some screenshots. Sometimes it has a description and tells you more about it. But if you just want to use it for free, you can actually click Get Space, and you can install this into your workflow. Of course, you first need to accept Monday's terms and conditions, and then you click Add Space, and it will take some time to load into your account. Usually it takes about 20 to 30 seconds, but it depends a bit on how big the Monday space is. And you can think of Monday spaces as like general templates that are built by other creators. I personally like it a lot to figure out what other people are doing, get some new inspiration for new dashboards, new boards, or see what other people are up to. And I highly recommend it if you're building new boards to just install a few. It's free. You can just play around with it and see if you like it. And if you don't like it, you'll just delete them. It's pretty easy. Sometimes it takes a bit long to load, so then I just refresh the page, and quite often then it actually shows up. So let's go to my workspace. And if I browse workspaces, it might already show up. There you go, OKR Advanced Workflow. So this is the space. As you can see, I can see everything that this person has built, has some cool, interesting things. And you can get inspired by what other people are doing with some test data that they're putting in there. I usually use it for inspiration. It's almost never that I can actually use a template, as is. But as inspiration, it's actually a great source. Tip 43 is about people who love to build advanced automations. I'm one of them, and one of the best features that I really like about Monday is Monday workflows. It's very similar to platforms like Zapier and Make, if you know them, and I'll show you what it looked like. So at the top right of Monday, you'll see something like this. If you don't see it yet, it might be because either you're not on the enterprise plan, or it's also available on some pro plans, but not on all of them yet. Maybe at the time of, or at least at the time of recording. Maybe when you're actually watching this, it's already available. So yeah, you would click here, and then you can actually create a new workflow. And I'll show you what it looks like. So let's click Add Workflow and call it a test workflow. Workflows are actually quite interesting. They are, you can do way more than with a normal automation. As you can see, there's like a big canvas where you can build a lot of things. So let's say when a status changes to something on a certain board. So we could say, well, on this board, when it changed to working on it, then we'll do something. We can, for example, delay it by, let's say, 2 hours. And after that, if, for example, a drop down is X, then we'll do something. And if it's not, we'll do something else. So that's what we can do. You can also do multi-branch stuff. So, if it's this, if it's that, pretty interesting. And then you can also have an action like send a Slack message or create a channel. Or you can do something like set a date, stop a time tracking. It actually has a lot of similar things to what's possible with Monday's normal automations. But as you can see, you can build way more advanced automations with this. So I highly recommend that you check it out if you see it for the first time. You will actually be able to see all your workflows in similar places to where you see your boards. So I highly recommend that you put them in a folder to keep them all in a nice place and keep them together. So this is a great feature. They're working on it a lot. I think they're going to improve it a lot over the next couple of years. And I look forward to seeing what they're going to add to it. Tip 44 is for the whiteboard lovers. If you like a tool like Miro or Lucidchart, you'll love Monday Work Canvas. It's literally a canvas, like you can see here. It's built by Monday, and it actually integrates with Monday, which makes it so interesting. Let me show you what it looks like. So if you go to workcanvas.com, you can actually just log in and play around with it. It looks something like this. So let's create a new canvas, and it will tell you, like, you can start with a template. In my case, I won't start with a template. I can do the typical stuff you would expect, like creating sticky notes, creating nice shapes, writing text, and playing around with a pen. However, the interesting thing is here you can click Monday integration. So click there, click import items, and then you can search for items from a board. In my case, I have a test board, so let's import that board. Now on the left-hand side, you actually see all the items from this board. And the interesting thing is you can drag and drop them in here. So we could say, for example, when we're drawing, we could say, well, here's the, let's say a certain stage of a project. And these are all the tasks that are related to it. And we can see the live status of these tasks in here, which is pretty cool. So we can even change it from here. I really think it's pretty cool. You can determine which fields you want to see, which fields you don't want to see. There's a lot of stuff you can do here. And this is like, I'm barely scratching the surface. There's so much you can do with Monday Work Canvas. But I think it's a lot of fun. It's an interesting tool. They're really trying to build something that, when you're doing project planning, you want to use something like Miro or Lucidchart, and they want to replace it with Work Canvas. Then the project execution happens in Monday. And then the project presentation, they also want that to happen in Work Canvas. So everything is connected to each other for a whole project. Tip 45 is one for enterprise work management users who like to use project management related tools. There's this tool called Projects and Portfolios in Monday Enterprise Work Management, which you can find by clicking on the blue plus icon and going for Projects and Portfolios. It looks something like this, the thing you're seeing right here, which looks like a simple project overview, nothing too crazy. There's a few interesting things about this feature, and it will actually get more interesting in the future. But what you can do right now is you can do some interesting stuff, like automatically linking all the items within a board to its main item on this board. So for example, we have, planned timeline here, which is just a timeline column. And we have an actual timeline column, which is the timeline of all the items in the board combined. So that's pretty cool. I can see the actual timeline and the planned timeline. You can do the same thing with budget, estimated budget, actual budget, or amount of hours, tracked hours, that kind of stuff. Another interesting thing is you have something like this, a snapshot, which instantly tells you what what's up with the projects. You can see if they're off track, on track, or at risk. How many tasks have been done, the planned versus actual, who the project managers are that are connected to these projects. It gives you a high-level overview of everything that's going on in your projects. Another interesting thing is if you click on a project, you actually see a project kind of dashboard, which is completely customizable and filled with data from the project. If you then go to the project board itself, you actually see a few interesting things. Let's go to this one. Here you can, for example, click to instantly go to the same overview. And you can, from here, tell the team if it's off track, on track, or at risk. It's also pretty cool. You can add some notes like, we have a problem, and we publish it. And now if you go to the overview, you'll actually see that information here in a timeline view. So there's a lot of interesting stuff you can do with the projects and portfolios feature. Monday is going to add a ton of AI features to it, so you can do risk analysis, capacity related stuff. I think it's interesting. It's one to keep an eye out for. And yeah, I think it has a lot of potential. The following features for all the Monday service users. It's actually a platform that's pretty new and it has a lot of potential. And the interesting thing is it has a portal. Here on the top left, you see portal. So let's show you what it means. First thing I'm going to show you is the portal itself. So let's open it in a different tab. Basically, you can build your own company portal where people can ask all types of questions, but it can also find a lot of information. You can use this like a knowledge bank, but also as a support center. As you can see, here I can see, for example, HR related stuff. Here's a link to a document, an example document, and an example form. And from here, I can just enter information in a form. Then it could, for example, be used for IT related tickets, HR tickets, could be anything. And yeah, you can do it in separate different categories. You can also has a nice search bar, so you can search through a lot of information from the company. And you can actually see all your open tickets, and have conversations about them and see what the latest status is. Super helpful for IT tickets or just any tickets that you want to send to as like a support kind of mechanism. You can also create tickets from here. And let me show you what it looks like on the back end. So you can actually do a few things. You can give a name to the portal, do some branding related stuff. It's pretty cool. With regards to the content, you can generate it completely yourself. You can add groups, add forms and links. So that's also interesting. With regards to security, there's also some interesting stuff. You can, members of your Monday account can use it, but you can also let people outside of the organization use it, either from a specific domain or for any domain. And you can also send it to anyone with a link. Right now, it's still in early access, but this is something that will be available pretty soon. This means that you can use it as, for example, let's say you own a web shop. You can use it as your support portal for the web shop where all your clients can, ask support related things. Pretty cool. Then in users, it will add some information where you can add, for example, non-Monday users to the portal. Pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff you can do here. They have been releasing update after update, so I think it will be even more advanced in the near future. Those were all the miscellaneous helpful tips, and now we're going into the Workforms related tips. Workforms is a platform for Monday, or product from Monday actually, I should say, where you can generate forms within Monday, and it's all part of your Monday.com plan. Super helpful, and I'm going to tell you more about it. Let's dive into the tips. For tip 47, we're going to show items from another board in your Workforms. So let's use this example. We have an internal employee party, and you can choose between event A, B, and C. We have those events in a separate events board, as you can see here, event A, B, and C. And we want people to choose from the options in this list. So if event D is added, that they can also see event D. So let's go to the form and show you how it's done. First, you add a new column, and it's a connect boards column. Then you connect it to the events board by clicking select boards, click events, click create a two-way connection, and click connect boards. Here you can click I'll do it later. Now you see events here, and we can technically manually select an event. But this question is now also showing up in our form. So let's go to our form and click edit form. Here, if you scroll down, you will now be able to see the events column. This might ask you to restrict the form because it's sensitive data. There are some ways to work around this. In my example, it's an internal company party, so everyone has a Monday account, but you can also build it in a way that external people can see it. So for example, your clients or people without a Monday account at all. So in this case, it's internal, so it's pretty straightforward. Let's click events, click question settings, and make sure it's not hidden. I know it's a little bit buggy at the moment. So as you can see, it's hidden, but it says it's not. So I'll just hide and unhide it to make sure, as you can see, that it will actually show up. Let me just refresh this page just to confirm that it's actually not hidden. There you go. So now I'm going to share the form, copy link, and open it in a separate tab. And as you can see, if I scroll down, it now has events and it will show the results event A, B, and C. If I now were to add event D to the list, let's do that, event D, and I go to the form and refresh it, you'll see in the events column that also event D is now an option. This is actually great. There's a lot of interesting stuff you can do with this. And yeah, I would highly recommend that you check it out. Tip 48 is actually the first tip with regards to an app. Monday Workforms is amazing and has a lot of great features, but there are some downsides to it. It has some limitations, and there's an app in the marketplace that basically breaks through all those limitations that I'd love to introduce to you. So since we're talking about forms anyways, I want to introduce you to Superform, which is one of my favorite apps. Superform is basically an app that does a lot more than Monday Workforms, and that's why I like it a lot. Let me show you how it works. So you can go to the App Store of Monday and type Superform, and there you can actually install it by clicking here. And well, in my case, since it's already installed, it will return an error, but it will show you something like install here. Then what you can do in a board is you can add a new view, go to apps, and add a Superform. And an interesting thing I'm going to show you is how you can let people update their own information. So in this case, we have Patrick and a phone number and an email. And maybe we want Patrick to be able to update his own data. In that case, with Superform, there's a feature called update. So here we have insert, which is creating a new one, and update an existing item. Let's change to update and click continue. Now, if I were to preview this form, you actually see that I can select an item, but I can also pre-select it for someone. So I can also send him information, a link to his specific one. So you cannot change it for others. But just for the sake of this tutorial, I'll show you it like this. And as you can see, I see all the information from Patrick and I can change it myself. So let's say it was not Patrick at test, but Patrick at test.com. And it was not Patrick Cool, but Patrick Cool 123. If you click submit, what will happen within a few seconds, as you can see, the name is changed and the email is also changed. And Patrick can keep updating his own form, his own data. Tip 49 is about creating items through a form. Wouldn't it be great if you would click new item and you can actually just fill out the form to create your own item? This is super helpful if you want to make some fields mandatory, for example. Well, it's not perfect yet, but I'm going to show you how it's actually possible. If you go to your form, you go to edit form and go to the settings, there's actually a setting that's called, let me find it for you, allow creating items via form. If you turn it on like this and go to the main table, now if you click on this drop down, it will actually say new item via form. If you click there, it will actually show a form with, just your basic form with all the fields that you have created. So from here, we can add some information, test@test.com, ASDF, submit. And it will just automatically create an item for you in this board. Super helpful if you want to force people to use certain information in certain fields. The only downside is that you cannot force Monday yet to activate this feature when you click new item, so you can still work around it. And that's unfortunately, just a problem. Hopefully they're going to fix that soon, but for now, this is a nice little workaround. Arrived at tip 50. Nice. Let's keep going. So tip 50 is about selecting only one item or one answer within a form. I just explained how you can add a connect boards column to your form like this. So in my case, the connect boards column is actually already turned off. Let me just turn it on real quick. And as you can see within a second, there you go. If I were to refresh this now, it has an events option. But as you can see, I can add as many as I want. Maybe I don't want that. In that case, I can just go back to the form and go to my Connect Boards column. And here, click on the three dots, click Settings, Customize Connect Boards, and deselect allow linking multiple items. Now you can only select one, and this will also show up in the form. So if I refresh and reset, as you can see here, I can only select one event. You can do the exact same thing with drop-down columns and people columns. So smart one to keep in mind. Tip 51 is all about branding and your form. A few interesting things about Monday Workforms are that you can add a welcome page like this. You can just simply add it, add some information like, hi, this is a form. You can add all types of information. I'm very bad at typing, as you can see. You can add descriptions, information like a start button. You can add your logo. It has some other cool settings that you can do. I also like that you have a final page where you can turn on and off the image and add some information. There's also more in the settings of Monday. I would recommend to just read through them and see what's possible. One that I like a lot is that you can hide the branding so you don't see the Workforms logo. You can also do some stuff here. Yeah, you can actually include or exclude, for example, the name. So the name of an item. If you turn it off, everything will come in as an incoming form response. And if you turn it on, you can ask whatever type of question you want and the user will fill in that information. You can also include an update section. So someone, let me show you, can add their own update through the form. So for example, yeah, this is a form. And I haven't turned it on yet. So let's go to the edit section. And here, update, I can actually turn it on. If you enter that information, it will show up as an update here. Pretty cool. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with Workforms. I'd recommend playing around with the settings and seeing what's possible. Tip 52 is actually an update that I love about Monday Workforms, and I'll show you right now. You can add sub-items through Monday Workforms. First things first, make sure that you have sub-items enabled on your board. You can do that by just simply clicking to a sub-item, and it will show as this for a few seconds. And there you go. Now sub-items are enabled in your board. Make sure that you do this. It's very important. Then you go to the form and you go to edit. And here you will now see a section called sub-items. And you can first unhide it. Right now it's a little buggy, so it says hidden while it's not. And as you can see, it starts loading in all the columns from the sub-items. It can take, a few seconds. Sometimes I just like to refresh to make sure it, is loaded in instantly. So let me show you. Edit the form, go back to the sub-items, and here you can see all the columns on the sub-item level. You can give it a name, you can turn them off, you can hide them, give them a name, and that's basically it. A lot of interesting stuff you can do there, and it looks pretty cool in the form itself. So in my case, hi, this is a form, and here we have sub-items. You can add as many as you want, and you can add all type of information. Very helpful if you want your users to enter information in sub-items. Those were the tips about Workforms. Hopefully you like them. We're now diving into the CRM stuff. And if you don't have the CRM package, you either just look at the tips and think it's pretty cool and learn more about what Monday has to offer, or you just jump ahead and go to the next section of this video. Up to you. Let's dive into the CRM stuff. Tip 53 is about adjusting the item view. One of the great and interesting things about the CRM is that it has a very different item view. Let me show you. So when you go to the CRM and you click on an item, it actually shows a very big item view, unlike what you see in work management. This is actually great because this is like a whole canvas that you can customize yourself. If you click on the top right on the three dots and click Edit Layout and Content, you can actually adjust it to your needs. It's like a dashboard, so you can just play around with things. You can here add a widget. You can do whatever you want, really. Add some deal stages. You can add, I don't know, let's say some information. You can add connected boards, so maybe you have connected it to orders or something else. Text columns, sub-items. There's a lot of interesting stuff you can do, actually, within the CRM item view. I highly recommend that you play around with it to make your CRM picture perfect. Tip 54 is about a feature called sequences. It's one of the great features of the Monday CRM, and I'm going to show you how you can use it. On the top left, you can click on sequences, and the best way to learn about a sequence is to just see a sequence. So let's dive into one. If I open this one, I can actually see a sequence, and yeah, it's actually pretty simple to understand. So when a person is enrolled in this specific sequence, we're waiting for 2 days, then we're sending an automated email, waiting for 5 days, creating a call tasks, and we just adding new tasks after that. So basically, a sequence is a sequence of tasks or automated tasks that you can push someone through. So you can actually create them quite easily by going to sequences and clicking new sequence, giving it a name, such as test 1, 2, 3, and then selecting a board where it needs to pull contact data from. So make sure it's a context related board. Then you click create, and here you can actually start creating your sequence. As you can see, you can easily add a step. Let's say the first step is a manual email. Then the second step is waiting for 5 days. The step after is, for example, a call task. And maybe you wait for 5 days again, and then create an automated email. It's actually super helpful in situations like when a client is disengaged. If they don't reach out to you anymore and you have sent a few messages, but you don't want to chase them anymore because it's just a waste of your time, you don't really want to just put the lead in the bin and remove it forever. You should actually just try an automated sequence and see if they respond to that. So you can do like automated email sequences to automatically send messages. They would respond to that. So that's actually a great first tip. Tip 55 is a tip about sequences as well. It's actually very important to automatically remove people from a sequence in certain situations. Let's say you're having this automated email when a client is disengaged. The moment that they respond to your email, you want to stop the sequence because you want to manually take over. You can do that with the rules and notifications section. So go here and go to the removal rules on the left-hand side. Here you can decide when to remove a user from the sequence. I would always, for example, recommend that if the email bounces, so if it doesn't come back, that you, for example, remove it if it's an automated email sequence, because you can keep sending emails, but if they don't land in their inbox, it's kind of a waste of time and it will hurt your email deliverability. So that's a great one. Another thing is, for example, this one, remove a contact if they reply to an email in the sequence. If you click there, it will automatically stop when someone replies. Pretty straightforward. You can also then set a status column to something. So maybe when a contact replies to an email, you want to change the priority to high, for example, or medium. Let's do high. Stuff like that's all possible with sequences, and I think it's actually a pretty cool feature. So I highly recommend that you check it out. There's some other interesting features here. As like a small little extra tip. You can, for example, determine when you're sending the emails. On certain days, you can turn off, for example, Saturday and Sunday, if you don't want to email then. You can also decide to send emails anytime, but also between certain time periods. It's actually pretty cool. Highly recommend that you check it out. Tip 56 is my final sequences related tip for now. It's actually about automatically enrolling someone in a sequence. There's actually a few ways to enroll someone in a sequence. One is by just clicking on an item and then clicking add to sequence. And here you can add it to a sequence that you've created. In my case, there's no sequence connected to this board, so no sequence would show up. But if there's one, you can click and you can add it to the sequence. Another way is to automatically do this. Let's say a status changes to disengaged because the client is disengaged. Then you want to start a sequence. In that case, you just go to automate here at the top right. And you go to create and you type sequences. Sometimes it takes a little while to load. So if it doesn't show up instantly, just try it a few times. Then click sequences. And here you actually see all the options to automatically enroll someone in a sequence. In the case what we just talked about, it will be this one. When status changes to something, enroll item in sequence. So when status changes to disengaged, enroll item in a sequence. Once again, there's no sequence connected to my board, so nothing would show up. But this is actually how you automatically enroll people in a sequence. Super helpful. Tip 57 is about the emails and activities feature of Monday.com. The emails activities feature is the thing that you see here. When you click on a lead and you would actually see your whole timeline with all emails and other types of information. It's very important that you don't add any emails here that are confidential, such as emails to your accountant or internal emails. And you can actually filter all of them easily out of your emails and activities widget. I'm going to show you how to do it. So if you close this one and go to the settings icon here on the top right, you can actually click there and scroll down a little bit. Oh, it doesn't want to scroll down for me. There you go. Then at the bottom, it has something called never log. And here, as it tells you, you can add email domains or just complete email addresses. So let's say your accountant is called accountant@accountant.com. You can remove it like this, and no emails from this person will be shown in the CRM. If you have a whole accountant company that you don't want to show up in here, you can just do accountant.com, and every single email address related to this domain name won't show up in your CRM. Super important, super helpful. I highly recommend that you play around with this because it's important that you don't log confidential information by accident. Tip 58 is about having mandatory fields when someone changes a status. This is both for Enterprise and Pro, but both need a little bit of a different approach. Let's start with the Enterprise one. If you're on Enterprise and you go to a status column, and you click on the three dots, there's actually something called, if you go to settings, called set label change conditions. If you click there, it will actually show you this pop-up. If you then say when a label, so when, for example, your status label changes to lost, we want someone to fill out the lost reason, and it's a required field. If you then click apply, it will actually, force this person to fill it in, otherwise they cannot change it to lost. You can also add more columns if you want to, and you can also make them not required if you want to. So let's click done and test it. Let's say this lead was now marked as lost. As you can see, a pop-up shows up. You can select the person, and you have to select the lost reason. If you don't do it, it won't allow you to change the status. This is very helpful if you want to understand certain information in your CRM, and if you want to force people to enter data so your dashboards are as accurate as possible. Well, this feature is not possible on the Pro plan, so I'm going to show you a little workaround. But first, let's click Save and show you that it actually works. There you go. Cool. So how do you do this on Pro? Well, you need an app called Workflows. So first you go to the Monday App Marketplace and you type Workflow. There you go. It's an app called Workflow by Spotnik. If you install it, it will actually show up in your account. You can then add a column like that by clicking on this plus icon and clicking more columns. There you type Workflow, and as you can see, an installed app shows up. If you then click Add to Board, it will actually show this status column in the board. And you might think, well, I don't see anything weird about this one. So if I click on it, it looks a little different, but it's fairly identical, right? It looks like the same thing. I can just click working on it and nothing happens. However, if you click Edit Workflow, it will show you an actual workflow like this. And what we can do is we can determine, for example, that when a label gets sent to stuck, we need to do certain things. So we do that by saying, well, if a label changes from the gray one to stuck, then as you can see, this one here at the bottom, something shows up. We can only allow certain people to make that change, and we can make columns required. So we can say, if it's changed to stuck, then the lost reason is required. It works very similarly. If we now close this one and close it here, and we look at one where there's no, it's gray, and we click from here to stuck, as you can see, it will now allow you to enter the lost reason. So it works very similarly, it's just a little bit different. There's a few limits about this feature. I think the biggest one is that it's not available on mobile yet. Maybe at the time of that you look at it, it's actually available on mobile, but right now it's not. Tip 59 is about the item creation form. If you click new item, right now it would just generate a new item. But if you want your team to fill out certain information, you can actually do that and you can force them to. So let's click here on the top right hand side and click on or hover over settings. Then you click on enable item creation form. Nothing happens right now, but if you click new item right now, it actually shows a form. And this form can be adjusted. So you can click on this pencil icon and you can adjust it just like a normal work form. So we can, for example, hide the person column and we can make, let's say, the status column required. There you go. Now if I select done and I would go back, I would click again, you would actually see that this is now required and the person column is hidden. This is great because you can force people to enter certain information. If you click here, it will actually also show up and it's super helpful. And by doing this, you can actually build very interesting things, which I'll show you right now. So this is an example of my personal CRM template that we use a lot for our clients. If we click new lead As you can see, this shows like a lead name. Do you want to select an existing contact person, and do you want to select an existing company? Then you can select yes or no, and it will give some more information. So here it has a drop down with our current contact people. And if you click no, it will actually show you fields of data that you can enter. Same thing happens with company. Yes is select an existing one. No is create a new one. So you can create a lot of interesting things here. You can use conditional logic. It's very similar to a normal work form because it's actually a work form, but it's just great to force people to enter certain information the way that you want them to enter it. Tip 60 is about automatically filling in data from the web in your Monday.com account about companies. Let me show you what I mean. So if you're on an enterprise CRM account, and maybe in the future also in other plans, you can actually type a company name in your company's board. As you can see, a lot of companies show up. So for example, Monday shows Monday.com. And if I click here, it automatically pre-fills the domain. Well, it can also pre-fill a lot of other information with Crunchbase, which is what powers this whole thing. Crunchbase is basically like a platform where you can find a lot of information about companies, and a lot of this information can all be pulled from Crunchbase and pushed into your CRM. So maybe for you, it's interesting to see how much money a company has raised, who their CEO is, what the type of company is, or when it has been established. All of the information can be pulled from Crunchbase and can be put into your Monday CRM. It does have a few free options, so it has a few data points you can get for free. But if you want to get most of the data points and want to make it more complex, you need to have a Crunchbase subscription to actually be able to do this. But for a lot of companies, it's actually super interesting. So I highly recommend to check it out if it's relevant for you guys to get more information from a company from the web automatically. Tip 61 is about scheduling meetings from Monday.com. Let me show you. So if you open a company, deal, contact, or whatever you want to open in a CRM, it looks something like this, as you know. In the emails and activities widget, there's actually a button called add activity, and now it has a schedule meeting option. If you don't see this, you might first need to integrate it by clicking integrate and then connecting either your Outlook calendar or your Google Calendar. So let's click add activity and schedule a meeting. Now here it will actually show everything that's in your personal agenda. In my example, there is nothing in my agenda, so let's add something. So I just added a few examples. Here in my Google Calendar, you actually see coffee with John, drive home, meeting with Eva. And now you can actually see it in the CRM as well. If I go to the right, to the next day, you actually see the coffee with John is here. I can also replace everything, or I can actually use this as the meeting. So I can just click on it and save it to my CRM. But in my case, I actually want to create a new one. So let's say Wednesday the 11th, we want to create an event, like test event. It's a Google Meet, it's not in person. And as you can see, the dates have been set automatically. You can invite people. So you can say, for example, Patrick at productivitytools.io is invited. And this is a meeting about a Monday CRM. Now, if I click save event and send it to the attendees, it will actually show up both in my calendar. So first of all, it shows up here. It will show up in my calendar, as you can see here. And as you can see, Patrick has been invited, so we'll now receive an email saying, "Hey, can you please respond and let me know if you can attend this event." So it's actually a great way to schedule events from your CRM. Tip 62 is about Monday CRM Chrome extension. If you want to add leads from your email directly to your Monday CRM, it's actually possible right now with Monday CRM Chrome extension. It's very hard to find, so follow along. First, you need to type Monday CRM Chrome extension in Google, which will bring up the Monday CRM Chrome extension article. You need this one. There's also some other extensions, but those are not the right ones. So you need the one from the actual Monday page. So this is the page you need to look for. Then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll actually find the detail page here. And if you click there, it brings you to the Monday CRM Chrome extension page, where you can click add to Chrome. So you need to have a Chromium browser, which means Chrome, Firefox, and I think there's a few more. So let's click add to Chrome, add extension. And as you can see on the top right, it shows up. It has a nice little, hey, look into how it works. As you can see, if I click here, it now shows my CRM Chrome extension. There you go. Now, if I go to my email and would refresh, what you will see is you'll see this little icon next to a name. And if you click there, it will actually automatically enter or insert that person into your CRM. There you go. It now is marked as view. So if I click view, you now see this person in our CRM with name and email automatically in there. Super helpful if you want to quickly add people from your email to your CRM. Tip 63 is about the funnel chart dashboard widget. It's one of my favorite widgets from the Monday CRM and it looks something like this. So the thing that you see here is actually an example pipeline. Each of the stages shows up on the x-axis, and as you can see, we had 5 new leads. 80% of them, so 4, went into the discovery call. All of them went into the proposal stage, and then we had a drop off because only 50% went to the negotiation stage. From beginning till end, 40% was actually converted to a won deal. And this is very important information because you can use it to figure out where in your pipeline you're losing most money. So this is how you set it up. Create a dashboard in the Monday CRM and click Add Widget. There, go to More Widgets and type Funnel. There you'll see the funnel chart, so you can click Add Widget. It will show up in your dashboard. I like to make it a little bit bigger, so let's do that by dragging and dropping. And then, usually with dashboard widgets, you would find the settings here and go to Settings. However, as you can see, nothing shows up. It's because the settings for this widget show up here. It's a little bit weird, but that's the case. So if you click here, you can actually see more information. You can determine what status column you want to use for the x-axis, what stages you want to show up here, and which stage comes after which one. So maybe the negotiation happens before proposal, then you can change it and the data will change automatically. Then on the y-axis, you can either show deal value, you can show, count the items or the close probability. Basically, any numbers column can be used. You can also show some other stuff like, where to show how to color the stages. Basically what you would like to do, whatever, just like a nice little thing to make things more interesting. But this is what you can do with this widget. What you can also do is you can search for a specific person. In my case, no people actually show up in this example because I think I have no people assigned to my deals. But here you can usually determine which person you want to filter on and when the funnel has started. So for example, maybe you guys have made a big change to how you do sales in the last 30 days. Then you want to compare how did the last 30 days go compared to, for example, the last 6 months. And that's basically some interesting stuff you can do with the funnel chart widget in the Monday CRM. Those were the CRM tips. Hopefully you like them. I can talk for ages about the CRM and I can share a lot of interesting information. So I will definitely do that on my YouTube channel with new upcoming videos. Please subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content and leave a like on the video to help me out a little bit. That's awesome. If you have any specific questions, by the way, you can also leave them in the comments and I'll happily answer them. Well, let's now dive into the tips about data and dashboards. Tip 64 is about creating dashboards as a board view. Most people know that you can create a dashboard through clicking here and then creating, there you go, a dashboard. However, you can also create a dashboard for a specific board. You can do that by clicking on this plus icon and there either going for chart or going for a blank one. Let's start with a blank one. Then you can determine what type of widget you want to add to this canvas. So let's click Add Widget and go for a chart one. There you go. Now a chart widget shows up. You can also do all the other types that you're used to. So a numbers column, battery column, widget. And there's a lot of interesting stuff you can do here. But keep in mind, the data on this dashboard only shows data from the actual table. So it's not like like a normal dashboard where you can get data for multiple boards. In this case, it's only this board. But this can be super helpful because if you have, for example, a client board and this board is only about tasks related to this client, then you can share this dashboard with your client during a meeting, for example, to see how things are going. If you actually looked at one of my earlier tips in this video, you can also share this dashboard link with your client so they can always see a live updated version of the dashboard. Super helpful. Tip 65 is great if you work a lot with files. We're going to create one big place where you can see all the files of your board. You can do this by clicking on here to add a new board view and to add a file gallery. Then, as a next step, what I would recommend is that you click here to dock the widget. This makes it full screen. There you go. Now there's a few interesting things you can do here. First of all, you see all the files from your board. You can see files names, from what column they come from, what version of the file it is. You can also comment on a file if you want to. It's actually quite helpful. But you can also click here to download the file or to delete a file. Some interesting stuff there. You can search through files. And another thing I like a lot is changing the way you look at files. Just depends on what you prefer. You can download all files at the same time as a zip file. And if you click here on the settings icon, you can actually do a few things. If you have multiple files columns, you can also turn off certain columns to only see files from a specific column. And you can actually show files from updates as well, or you can turn it off. Same thing with showing files from the files gallery. It's also something you can turn on and off. So that's quite a helpful tip. Tip 66 is about the group by feature. In the past, when you wanted to group by certain things, you always had to create groups and had to say, for example, when a status changes to priority high, move it to group priority high. Well, right now you can actually do it way faster, way easier with the group by feature. So let's click group by here and select the column that you want to group by. In my case, it's priority. Note that right now I have two groups called group title. But if I click here and click priority, it actually uses the values from my status label column. So we now have critical, high, medium, and low. If I switch medium to high, it will also automatically go to the high group. It's pretty good. You can also do this with a lot of other columns, almost any column really. So different status columns, date columns. You can also determine the way it's ordered. So do you want to use the order of the labels, the reverse order, A to Z, whatever you prefer. And you can actually save this as a new view so you can always easily click on it. I call it, for example, grouped by priority. Now, if you switch between the two board views, you'll easily be able to access this without having to reconfigure it every single time. I think it's a great one. It saves me a ton of time and also saves a lot of automations. So I highly recommend that you use it. Tip 67 is about leveraging formula columns in dashboards. Let me show you some great examples. So here you have two numbers columns, a deal value and a probability, and two formulas. One is pretty simple. It's literally deal value times probability. And the other one is a little bit more, nuanced. It's actually if the weighted deal value is lower than 10,000, then it's a normal deal. And in all other situations, so if it's higher than 10,000, it's a big deal. As you can see here, if I change the probability to 2, it's a normal deal. If I change it to 75, it becomes a big deal. Now, if we go to a dashboard and we add a widget, let's say a chart widget, we can actually show that value. So on the x-axis, we can determine what we want to see. Let's say weighted deal value. Now you can see how many deals we have with that deal value. But you can also say, for example, let's say we do the name of the item is on the x-axis, and on the y, we use the weighted deal value. And here you can see the weighted deal value of each of those items. It's actually a great way to quickly see information about your formula columns. Another example is to use a numbers column. And for example, say we want to see the average weighted deal value. So we go to weighted deal value and we change this to average. And now we see the average weighted deal value in US dollars. So it's another great way to add or to leverage formulas in your dashboard. A final example, let's use a chart again, is to use the, x-axis. Let's say it's the deal size. And the Y is just count items. So we want to see how many big deals do we have and how many normal deals. And as you can see, 1 big deal, 4 normal deals. Also a great way to leverage formulas in your dashboards. Tip 68 is about item cards within Monday Work Management. If you have a lot of different columns or a lot of columns that are connected to each other, there's actually a great way to showcase this. Rather than scrolling through boards and figuring out which column belongs to which column, you can actually create an item card. You can do this by opening an item and then clicking here on the plus icon. There you add item card. And as you can see, it's similar to what you might have seen in CRM. It's like a group of columns. So we could say, for example, this is deal information. And we only want to show by clicking here and clicking settings, we only want to show a few columns. Let's say only the deal value and maybe the person and the probability, right? Then we want another one, another widget. So let's use an information widget to add a similar thing, but then we only want to show, let's say, formulas or calculations. Give it a nice name. Click settings again, and now you can turn off the other ones. And by doing this, you can actually put things in their own category. So, for example, last time I had a great example with a client that sells houses. So one part of their columns was about the house itself, and the other part was about the person. So they want to have one section for person-related information and one section about house-related information. It is actually a great and easy way to see all the columns that are related to each other in a nice overview without scrolling left and right all the time. Tip 69 is about hiding columns and saving it to a view. So if you have a column that you don't want to show on the main view, so for example, let's say the weighted value is not relevant for the person that's looking at this view. Then you can click hide here and you can turn off weighted value. Then you can save it as a new view, and there you go. We now have a table here at the top. So we could say, for example, new view. As you can see, there's no weighted value here, but if I go to the main table, it actually shows up. This is a great way to hide the columns that are not relevant. So what you could do, for example, let's use the example of the person that sells houses. If you have house-related columns and person-related columns, you can also create a view that says house information and person information. Or sometimes, other columns that you're using for dashboards are not relevant for the team to see. For example, in CRMs, I often have a date column that's called one date. So when is the deal won? This is usually not super relevant to see all the time, so I usually hide it for the users that use it on a daily basis, but it's very important data that I want to keep in a dashboard. That's why hiding columns is actually super helpful. You can hide it like I just did it. If you want to adjust your view, just click hide again, hide whatever extra column you want to hide, and click save to this view, and now it's saved to the view. Tip 70 is about setting custom views as the default view of a board. So in my example, I have created two views. One is the main table, which we always have, and my new view, which I'll call deal size. Then I'm going to group it by my deal size column, so I can see, if there are big deals or normal deals, and I'm saving it to this view. Now I want to make sure that everyone who opens this board instantly sees this deal size view. And you can do that by clicking here on those three dots and clicking pin view. Now, as you can see, it shows up first, and therefore anyone that opens this board will instantly go to this board view. It's a very helpful tip to actually make sure that your people that are using the system are looking at the right board views at the right time. Tip 71 is about using sections in your dashboard to categorize widgets. Let me show you what I mean. So if you open a dashboard, it looks something like this. And let's say a few of your widgets are related to something and a few other ones are related to something else. There's no real easy way to see that right now, but there's actually a great tip. If you add a widget and you click more widgets and you go for a text widget, this one will show up. Just click there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it very wide and small. Then I'm going to add some text like important information. And I'm going to give it a red color, just an example. Make it bold and make it very big. That's a bit too big. Yeah, let's do this. Then I'm moving into the middle. And this text, the name of the widget, I'm going to just do a space and then click enter. And now I put this at the top of my board. And now you use it as like a section. So this could be the important information section. If I duplicate it, this could be the less important information section. And then you can have your widgets there. And this is a great way to make sure that your dashboards are organized in the right way, that people can easily find what they need to find. So I highly recommend that you use this. Tip 72 is about llama farms. You might be like, Patrick, what do you mean llama farms? Let me show you. So if you go to a dashboard and you click add widget, you can then at the bottom click add more widgets. If you type llama here, you'll find the Llama Farm widget. So let's click Add Widget, and then it will load in. Usually this takes a few seconds. There you go. Now let's make it a little bit bigger. Now Llama Farms are a great way to gamify the experience of your boards and to make it a little bit more fun for your team to work on tasks. So each llama represents the tasks. As you can see, item 3, item 2, item, the item names, it will show up. And I can click on each to see all the details. Then I can also go to the 3 dots and go to settings to actually see more information. We can determine what groups need to show up. So what items from what group show up in the farm. What is the start and due date for when it needs to be done. What is the goal title? So right now it's called Llama Farm, but it can also be events because you're, for example, running events. Then we can also select the status column. So you can use specific status columns or maybe a priority column if you prefer that. Whatever you prefer, really. And as you can see, the color of the llamas changes based on the status column. So in this case, this task is done because the llama is green. This one is working on it because the task is yellow. Now, it has 1 out of 4 completed goal points because 1 llama that's done is equal to a point. So we can also give this, for example, a different name like super points, whatever you prefer. You can also give each llama an amount of points. So maybe one event is 8 points, the other event is 2 points. If you want to do that, you can select the numbers column from here. If you're on enterprise, you can give the llamas a tie. It's kind of a funny thing where they have a tie. And if you have sub items, you can add baby llamas. So let's create a sub item for example, so you can see what it looks like. Let's say test 1, 2, 3. And if I now go back to the dashboard, what you will see is a baby llama. Here you go. As you can see here, we have a few of the baby llamas next to the mother llama because they are sub items. That's actually how it works. It's a fun little thing to add to make your team, more excited to work on projects. Sometimes it's even fun to put it on as a monitor on your in your office, like on a big screen, and put the llama farm. It's kind of crazy, kind of funny. A lot of people like it. Tip 73 is about sending your dashboards as a PDF on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis to your stakeholders. So let's say you've created a beautiful dashboard like I created here. Then here at the top right, you see export, and I can export it to PDF. But rather than manually going in there on a weekly basis and sending it to everyone, I can also click schedule PDF export. If you click there, you can actually select who you want to send it to, what the subject line of the email is, any information in the email, and when you want to send it. So this could be daily, it could only be on, for example, weekdays, it could be, a few days in the month, whatever you prefer. And you can actually also see the PDF layout, make some changes there, and then you can actually mark it as schedule. So let's say we want to say test, we click schedule, and now on a monthly basis, on the specific dates that I set it, it will automatically export the PDF. It will look something like this. So let me just export one example so you can see what it looks like, and it will be an attachment of the email. There you go. This is what it looks like. So you can instantly see what's going on with regards to this dashboard. I think it's a great feature, especially if you have stakeholders that you want to inform about dashboard related updates, or if you, for example, want to see daily updates about your company. So I highly recommend that you check it out. Tip 74 is about filtering in multiple boards in one dashboard. No. Tip 74 is about filtering in dashboards when you've connected multiple boards to one dashboard. Let me show you. So in the past, you had to click filter and then you had to go to each individual board and select the filter. Right now, if you go to board and select all boards, you can actually filter on one column and then filter through all of them at the same time. So let's say you have 5 different client boards, but they are built from the same template and have the same columns. Then you can just click on a column and then you can, for example, say, well, in our case, group is the thing that all boards have in common. I want to say group text is not, maybe, I don't know, contacts. And then it will filter through all those boards and all the groups that are not called contacts will be filtered out. This is especially helpful if you want to see, for example, all tasks that are not stuck amongst all the boards. You can actually do that if all of the columns are the same in all of the boards. So I highly recommend that you check it out. You can also save those filters here with the Save Filters button. It actually saves you a ton of time. And if you add new boards to the same dashboard, it will also automatically apply those filters if possible. Tip 75 is about benchmark lines. If you have targets or things you want to track, it's super helpful to use benchmark lines in a dashboard. Let me show you. Let's say we have this chart and we want to, target that it's always marked as 3. 3 is our target. Then we want to have like a nice line that shows 3. Let's do that by clicking on these 3 dots and then clicking settings. Then here you can click on benchmark lines and can create your own benchmark. First, you add a value such as 3 and you give it a label. So let's say minimum amount. And we mark it as red. And as you can see, we now have I'll show it here. We now have the minimum amount benchmark line. Now, if we want to add another one, let's say maximum amount, this is value. So maximum amount is, for example, 6, and we'll also make it red. Now we have 2 nice benchmark lines. So we always know that we need to be in between these 2. And this is great because, it's very easy to see what's going on with the 2 and if we're on track or not. So the benchmark lines are great for, adding goals or just anything that you want to track. Tip 76 is about the goals widget in dashboards. Let me show you. If you click add widget and then go to more widgets and you type goal, you will actually see the goals widget. It's still in beta, so keep in mind it's sometimes a little bit buggy and it only has a limit of maximum of 500 items that you can connect to it. But let me show you anyways. So let's click add widget, and as you can see, a goals widget now shows up. If we click here on the 3 dots, we can actually go to the settings. Give the goal a name, let's say trip to Ibiza with the team. If we hit 100,000, US dollars. Then we can say, well, what column do we need to look at? In my case, for example, deal value, and it will show how far we are with that deal. Now, if you actually want to do it correctly, in my case, we would need to filter for all the deals that are, of course, marked as 1. So that's what you can also apply. And then you would see all the 1 deals and how much money you have made in, a certain period of time, and if you're close to your goal or not. I actually quite like this widget, but keep in mind you can only connect it to 500 items at the time of recording. So that's a little limitation right now. Tip 77 is about using the Gantt widget to see Gantt charts. Let me show you how to build one. First, make sure that you have a date or timeline column on your board. In my case, I'll go for a timeline column. Then I'm going to add some example dates. So let's say item 1 needs to be done between the 2nd and 5th of June. Then this one needs to be done from the 5th till the 10th. And this one from the, let's say 11th till the 14th. Then we're going to add a dependency column. There you go. And it will ask you what to connect it to. In my case, to the timeline column. Now, you can also choose different dependency modes. This is a bit too complex for this video, but it's something to keep in mind. And you can basically look at the video to see what each option means. Let's click save. And now let's make task 2 dependent on task 1 by clicking here, click task 1. And task 3 is dependent on task 2. Right? Now you can already see that timelines are changing a little bit because they're all dependent. So if I were to change June this one to like 1 week after, these will also change automatically because they're dependent. Now, if we want to see this in a view, we can click here and go for a Gantt chart. Now let's make it a bit bigger by clicking here and go for the dock this widget. And here you actually already see item 1, item 2, item 3. Let's make it a bit nicer though by clicking here on the settings icon. We're going to group it by, let's say, the group. So we can actually see a group here. We're going to give it a color because it's now all gray, but I want to see the status. As you can see, the status. And there's a lot of other things you can do. Great thing about the Gantt chart is you can just drag and drop things from here and things will change automatically. Based on your dependency mode, it will do different things. In my case, if I were to change this to 1 week later, for example, everything else would also be moved a week later. So that's how you use Gantt charts in a nutshell. Tip 78 is about updating your dashboard to the newest dashboard engine. And let me show you what that means and how to do it. So first of all, go to your dashboard and click on the top right on the 3 dots. Now click Upgrade to New Dashboard Engine. This usually takes a few seconds. As you can see, it will reload. Now, a few things that are interesting to note here is that this little thingy now shows up. If you click here, it will automatically look for all the new information and update your dashboard so you can see when it was updated for the last time. Because if you have a dashboard and people make changes, your dashboard is not up to date anymore. But if you have a lot of data, you don't want it to update automatically like every single moment because it will be way too slow. So with this dashboard engine, it's actually faster, but it will also help you to automatically refresh data every certain time. So you either force a specific one to refresh, or you click here to refresh automatically every, for example, 15 minutes or 30 minutes. And there you go. It will automatically refresh the whole dashboard every 30 minutes. This is great if you use your dashboard as like a, big screen in your office, or if you just, want to see on every 30 minutes, you want to make sure it's refreshed. Keep in mind, you can also hard refresh the whole board by clicking here. Then it will refresh all of the tabs automatically. So that's how you upgrade the dashboard engine and how to use it correctly. Those were all the data and dashboard related tips. Hopefully you like them. Right now we're going into the automations related tips. And I know this is one of the ones you guys like most. So definitely look at them. I think they're all super interesting. There's a lot more that I can cover. So I'll be making more and more videos about this. So don't forget to subscribe. Let's go to the automations. Tip 79 is about automatically generating sub-items. Let me show you what I mean. So when you create a new task, let's say these are all newsletters that you want to create. Well, when you create a newsletter, you always have, certain amount of things you need to do. So let's have, newsletter here. We always need to, for example, as a first step, come up with an idea. And step 2 is, for example, write draft. And step 3 is, for example, create visuals. There's probably always like a certain list of things you need to do. But you don't want to keep copy and pasting all these tasks every single time you create a new newsletter task. So you can automatically do this by going to automate and actually clicking on create from scratch. Then we say when an item is created, we create a sub item like this. And we do this a few times. So when you click here, you can actually create multiple actions. So we'll say, for example, create another sub item and create another sub item. Then we give them names, such as sub item 1 is idea generation, sub item 2 is create draft, and sub item 3 is create visuals. Then you click create automation. And now when you create a new item, so let's call this one newsletter of June, it will automatically generate those sub items for you. As you can see, they are now generated automatically. You can also set presets for the columns that you want to add automatically. So there's a lot of stuff you can do here, but this is the first tip with regards to automations. Tip 80 is about how to make more advanced automations. Let me show you. So when you go to automate, you can actually, as you might know, create an automation from scratch. So let's do that. Now, let's say you want to make things more complicated. Let's say you want to say when a status changes to something. So let's say when a status changes to working on it, but also something else is true. Well, you can use this plus icon to say, and only if. So we could say when a status changes to working on it and only if, a date is empty. Then notify a person, for example. So this is a great thing about Mondays, that you can use these plus icons to say and only if for the triggers, so on the top side of the automation. And we can do the same for the bottom side of the automation for the actions, where you can then do multiple things. So we could say if this is true, then we do this, but we also want to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And you can actually add a lot of these options. It's not unlimited. At some point you'll run into a limit, I think at 20 or maybe 25 or something, triggers and actions. I've never seen it with triggers, but especially with actions. So keep that in mind, but there are some workarounds there as well. But this is how you can make more advanced automations. Tip 81 is for everyone who wants to really make most out of Monday. And the only way to do that is by understanding Monday's integration capabilities. And that all is centered around APIs. Well, one tip I have for you if you want to dive into this world is to turn on developer mode. Let me show you what that means. If you go to the top right of your account and then you click on monday.labs, you'll see a lot of options you can turn on. Here you type developer and you'll see developer mode. You can turn it on and off like this. And when you do that, you click on and you close that tab, it will actually refresh your browser. Then developer mode is active. You wouldn't really notice much of it, but one major difference is that when you click on a column, the column ID shows up here. And this is actually essential to know when you're working with APIs. So this is a very important thing about the developer mode. And I highly recommend you turn it on if you start working with APIs, Make, and Zapier. Tip 82 is about the date arrive trigger. Let me show you. When you go to automate and you're going to create a new automation from scratch, there's a trigger called date arrives. And this might sound like it can only happen literally when a date arrives. So we can say, for example, when a date for a date column arrives, do something. However, if you click on when, you'll see a lot more options. So you could say when the date arrives, but if you click here, you can say 1 day before the date arrives. Or, for example, 1 week or multiple months. And then you can do before and after. So what I like to do, for example, if there's a very important deadline, you can say 7 days before a very important deadline arrives, notify a person. Or what you can also do is 1 day after a date arrives and status is not done. So after, 1 day after the deadline, if it's not done, only then notify someone. Those are some interesting things that you can play around with. I think it's great, super helpful, and you can think of a lot of use cases to use this feature. Tip 83 is an automation about automatically connect boards columns. In this case, I have board A and board B. So on the left-hand side, you have board A and board B, and they're connected through a connect boards column that you see here. Pretty straightforward. They also have a unique ID column in both boards. And as you can see, item 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in board A, item 1 also has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But they are not connected right now. If you want to automatically connect the two based on certain logic, it's actually possible. So let's go to automate and then go to connected and mirror columns. Very important. Then you scroll down and we're going to use this one. When a column changes, connect the item where this column matches another column in another board. So let's click there. This is a more advanced automation. That's why it's important to keep reading what's going on. So we say when, for example, status column changes, connect. Well, you first need to connect the board. So in another board, in my case, it's board A. In board A, we're going to connect. Oh, wait, sorry, it's board B. Board B. We're going to connect the two. And we're going to do it when this column, so when the unique ID matches the unique ID in the other board by overwriting or adding, whatever you prefer. I'll go for overwriting in this case. This is only relevant if there's multiple linked items. We click create automation. And now, if I were to change this status to, for example, done, it will search for the unique ID that's connected in board B. And as you can see, they are now connected. You can do this with a lot of different use cases, but I just wanted to show you how you can automatically connect the two based on something that is the same in both boards, such as a unique ID. But it could also be an email address, a phone number, or any other thing. Tip 84 is about mirror columns. It's pretty easy to show data from another board in the board that you're looking at. And we do this with connect boards columns and mirror columns. The first thing you need to do is you need to make sure that there's a connect boards column that's connected to the board that you want to get data from. In my case, board A is connected to board B. And as you can see, it's like item 1 is linked to item 1 on this board. That's great. You can also manually do this by, for example, matching the two. Item 2 is item 2, for example. Then we're going to add a column and we're going to call it the mirror column. And with mirror columns, you actually need to connect the mirror column to the connect boards column. If you have multiple, you'll see a big list of options. In my case, only one. And we can showcase which column do you want to mirror. In my case, status. So the status of item 1 on board B now shows up here. And the status of item 1 in board A shows up here. I can also change it from here. So if I change this here, you'll see that this is now also changed here. If I change this here, it will also be changed here. And that's how mirror columns work. You can actually showcase data from one board in another board, and you can make changes, in another board and automatically create changes in the original board. So this is a more complex topic, and I'll add more videos on the channel about this soon, but this is the basics of mirror columns. Tip 85 is about limiting how many options someone has in the connect boards column. Let me show you. So in my case, board A is connected to the events board, and we can see that in the column here. So we'll call this event. This is the connect boards column where they're connected. And what you might want to do is you want to, for example, have an item 1 and only connect it to one event and not to multiple, like I can do right now. I can connect it to event A and event B. But I don't want this anymore. I only want my team to be able to select one, and that's it. You can actually do this by clicking on these 3 dots, clicking settings, and then clicking customize connect boards. There you turn off allow linking to multiple items, and all of a sudden I cannot add more items here. As you can see, it's just one. I cannot add more. This is actually a very helpful tool. It will also, if you use forms and you use the connect boards column in a form, it will also be adjusted there, so people can only select one option from the connect boards column. A little bit more of an advanced one, only helpful in certain situations in your workflow, but a very important one to keep in mind. Tip 85 is about copying mirrored status columns to native status columns. Let me show you what I mean. So in this board, we have a native status column, a normal status column for a normal board, and we have a mirrored status column. And as you might know, mirror columns aren't really supported well within automations in Monday. You can do it with apps, but not with the normal automations. So maybe you want to say that when, for example, in this case, event A changes from a status, you also want to change the status of something else. Well, that's actually possible. So if you click on automate and you click on create, then here on the bottom left, you have connected and mirror columns. And then there's this automation: when status changes to something, change another status to something. If we click there, we say when a mirrored status, and this is the interesting thing, mirrored status columns usually don't show up here, but in this automation it does. So when a mirrored status changes to done, then change another status to done. Let's create the automation. Now let's say these are both gray, and I were to change this mirrored status to done, then we expect that this one will also change to done. There you go. And you can use this logic to make very interesting workflows. Keep in mind that this only works if your connect boards column is connected to one board. If it's connected to multiple boards, it's very likely not possible, because multiple boards can have multiple status columns, and then the automations will break. So you'll figure out that this is not possible with multiple boards, unless in the future they've made some updates where it is possible. These were all the automation related tips. I can go on and on about automations, but these are just a handful of them. Hopefully you like them. Now we're going to the next category, the apps category. So let's dive into it. Tip 87 is the first app that I want to highlight, which is AutoBoost. AutoBoost is a great app if you work a lot with formula columns, mirror columns, and advanced sub-item related workflows. So you can download it from the App Store, from here. And when you've downloaded it, it will show up in your Automate section. So if you click there and click Create, and you type AutoBoost, it will actually show up. And here you'll instantly see why it's so powerful. So for example, you can work with formula columns. When a formula column changes, apply its value to a column. Or when something changes, you can do stuff with formula columns that are pretty interesting. As you can see, you can also do things with mirror columns. I would highly recommend it. You just scroll through all the options, because there's so much that's possible that, it really opens up. It crushes the limits of Monday basically, and it will open up a whole new world of possibilities. Tip 88 and the second app that I want to highlight is called Trackit. It's built by a Dutch company, so from the same country as where I'm from, and it's actually all about time tracking within Monday. They have done a great job at making it feel seamless, as if it's built by Monday within the Monday platform, while it's technically an external app. So what I like about Trackit is that it's easy to use. It has a lot of functionality, especially if you're technical and want to use the API to develop things on top of Trackit. Another thing I love about Trackit is their calendar view, where you can basically just drag and drop your time. So for example, I can drag like this, and I can add a new time entry within my calendar. They have a lot of interesting features coming up in this tool, but if you want to learn everything about time tracking within Monday, I've actually created a full video about it, so I highly recommend you check it out, because there's a lot of things you need to know to be able to understand which tools you should use for your workspace. Tip 89 is a tool called Dash Boost. It's actually a great way to turn your dashboards into way more than is possible within Monday. They've built a few cool features that I wanted to show you that I use every now and then. In this case, I'm playing around with the free trial, but I've actually implemented it for quite a few clients and I absolutely love it. So there's a few things you can do. One is you can add a calculator within your boards. So you can make, for example, a calculation between columns. You could say column A times column B equals a value. And you can put that value in your dashboard, which is very helpful. But another thing I like a lot, which they show here, is you can have dynamic benchmark lines. For example, in this video, you see that here's a benchmark line, here's a benchmark line, and here's a benchmark line. The problem with Monday's benchmarking tool is that you can only select one line, or well, one straight line. So each line they have multiple lines, that's great, but you cannot say, for example, let's say we have our Q1 goals are $100,000 of revenue, but Q2 is $200,000. In the normal Monday dashboards, it would just show one line for Q1 and one line for Q2. Whereas with Dash Boost, you can create one line per category of a time. So per quarter, you have one line. I think that's actually super helpful, and they're going to add way more interesting tools to the Dashboard Boost app. So I highly recommend that you check it out. Tip 90 is one of my favorite apps in the app marketplace. It's called Superform. If you use forms a lot, especially Workforms, you'll absolutely love Superform. They have so much more features than the Workforms app does, so I highly recommend that you check it out. A few of the features I love most are related to sub-items. You can easily create sub-items from the form. They've been able to do that for a long time, and Workforms has only recently released that feature. They have Connect Boards columns, but also filters on Connect Boards columns. They have an option that you can update a form. If you do update, there's actually some interesting restrictions. So you can only, for example, update it when a status is something, or if they have a password, or if there's a certain date. So maybe you have, for example, an event and you want someone to be able to change the event up till 14 days in advance. Then you can restrict them from updating it. So there's a lot of those interesting things about Superform, and there's actually a lot more. I highly recommend that you check it out, especially if you work with forms, because most of the limitations that Workforms has are not limitations on Superform. Tip 91 is about Supermail, and Supermail is actually built by the same company as Superform. That's why those people know a lot about Monday.com and know exactly where the limitations are of the tool. One of the limitations are that if you want to send emails through Gmail or Outlook, that you cannot do a lot of things. You cannot, for example, attach files. You cannot do a lot of other interesting, annoying things. And Supermail has actually solved most of those problems. So Supermail is just like Superform, an app that you can install on a board. You can add a lot of email templates there, and then you can trigger them and automatically send them with automations. So what you can do, for example, is click Automate, go to Create and type Supermail. And here you'll see what you can do. This all seems pretty standard, like you can send, for example, emails when the status changes from A to B. But the difference is that with Gmail and Outlook, a lot is not possible, such as attaching files, which needs to happen a lot of the times. There's also things with sending people emails in CC, in BCC, and there's a lot of other things that you can do, such as when a date arrives, send a certain email. Like, there's a lot of interesting things that I highly recommend checking out if you're serious about sending emails through Monday.com. Tip 92 is an app called DocuGen. If you want to generate documents, such as Word files or PDFs, with data from your board, this is a great app for you. You can use it, for example, when you want to create a proposal with information from your board. And basically how it works is you install the app from the app marketplace, and then you're going to an item, and you're going to add a new item view, which is the DocuGen view. So you click there, you click Explore More Views, you type DocuGen, and there you have it, DocuGen Generate. This looks something like this. And here you can upload your own template. And with this template, they have templating language, so you can actually refer to columns from your board. even very complex things such as sub-items. So it's actually a very complete app. And it's very like built for Monday.com and generating documents specifically for Monday. So I highly recommend that you check it out if you want to generate documents from Monday. And it also, I think, has a free trial, so you can play around with it if you're not sure if you actually like it. So recommend that you check it out. Tip 93 is about data backups. If there's a lot of important information in your Monday account, it's important to make an extra backup. You cannot, rely your whole company on Monday.com, because if Monday.com goes down, all their servers break, or if something happens, like some black swan event, you want to make sure that your data is secure. And the only true way to do that is to have a backup outside of Monday. Even though it's super unlikely that you ever need it, it's important that you have it if there's very important information in your Monday account. There's two platforms I can recommend to check out. One is called Pro Backup. They actually have an official integration with Monday, and they can basically export all your data from a Monday board into a backup, and then you can also get it back into Monday once you need to use that backup. Another platform, not new, but their integration with Monday is new, is Rewind. I believe they focus more on the enterprise level security related stuff. So if you're a bigger company, I recommend looking into Rewind. And if you're a smaller company, I recommend looking into Pro Backup if you want to generate backups of your Monday.com account. Those were all the apps that I want to share with you right now. There's a lot more cool apps out there, so I recommend checking out the app marketplace. But for now, those are my tips. Let's go to the last category, which is artificial intelligence. The one you've all been waiting for, the one with all the magic, the place where the magic happens. No, just kidding. We're going into AI, and I'm going to show you how to use it and what tips I have for you. Tip 94 is an AI CRM related tip. If you have an emails and activities section with a lot of information, and for example, this customer calls you, you want to make sure that you know what's going on within a few seconds. And you can actually do this with AI. So if you have a whole information in your emails and activities section and you click AI summary, it will start summarizing all the conversations you've had with that person or with your colleague has had with that person. Then you can read through it, you can copy it or even add it to the timeline. So let's edit, and there you go. Participants, Lisa with Patrick, in negotiation, recent communication. There's a lot of interesting you can see here. It's actually pretty cool. So this is what I recommend to check out if you need to, for example, figure out what's going on with a deal to see the latest as soon as possible. Tip 95 is about extracting data from files within Monday.com. So I have an example where I have a files column, and in that files column, we have this business card of Olivia. And instead of retyping all the information on this business card, I want to automatically get the data with AI. Let me show you how to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a column, and we're going to add more columns. And then you go to AI powered. There, we're going to use the, extract info column. So let's click there. Then we're going to say, what are we going to extract? Well, we're going to extract the first name, and we're going to extract it from the files column. And this is it. So what we're going to do is we're going to save and apply. And now it's actually having this automation in here. So as you can see, if I go to automate and I go to manage, you'll actually see it. So when an item is created, extract the information from the file and put it into this instruction. Same thing, into this column. Same thing when a file changes. So there you go. It extracted Olivia from the text. If I were to go for a different business card, let's go for, let's use a random example. So I just found this one, Sophie Smith, as you can see. Oh, there you go. Sophie Smith, which is a realtor. Let's upload that file into the files column. There you go. We're going for this one. It uploads it and then it waits a few seconds and it will actually get the data from it. Let's see if it's correct this time. There you go, Sophie. And you can actually use this for anything, domain names, email addresses, phone numbers. That's actually how to leverage AI within Monday. Tip 96 is about automatically categorizing support tickets or anything based on urgency. And this is actually a great, interesting AI related thing. So let me show you. First, we're going to add a column and we're going to type, going for more columns. There we're going for AI powered, and we're going for the detect sentiment one. It's actually very interesting. So let's click detect sentiment. And here we have interesting things. First, the text to analyze. Let's go for the item name. And then we're going to give it certain, labels that you can assign. But let's go for red will be urgent. This one is medium, and this one is not urgent. Those are the three options, for example. Then we're going to say categorize the item name based on the urgency of the support ticket. And then you're going to save and apply. In that case, when a new item comes in, it will automatically try to detect the sentiment. So let's create a new one. And we're going to call it, let's say, I'm going to call it website is down, please help ASAP. I'm going to save it. And now the AI will do its work. It will try to figure out in what category it is. And there you go, it's urgent. So pretty clear. Let's go for another one, which doesn't sound urgent. I have a question about my vacation that is happening in 2 years, for example. Let's save it. This doesn't sound urgent to me, so let's see what the AI thinks. Not urgent. So here you can actually try to categorize things yourself. You can make it more perfect by adding more text to the information in the AI. So the more examples you give it, the more suggestions you give it, the better it's trained and the better it will return the results. Tip 97 is about automatically assigning a new task to a person based on their skills. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we have a person column, which you can just add by clicking here and then adding a people column. Then you click on the 3 dots and you click on autofill with AI. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign a person and we're going to base it based on the item name. Then we say who can be assigned. Well, we're going to have Patrick and we're going to have John. And we're going to say John needs to get all technical and IT related tasks. Patrick needs to receive all marketing related tasks. There you go. So we're going to save it and apply. Now, if we create a new item, we want it to automatically assign either Patrick or John. So let's say my computer is broken. Sounds like a technical thing to me, so I think it should assign John. Now it actually does work. I didn't change anything. I think it just had to take some time to get started. So let's add something. I have a MailChimp question about email marketing, which is a marketing related thing. If we click save, it will actually assign Patrick within a few seconds. There you go. And if you say my computer has a slow internet connection, please help. You'll see that it will assign John because it's more of a technical related task. And it will happen in 3, 2, 1. There you go. Great thing. Sometimes a little bit buggy, but it's really new. So maybe it's just because it's just getting started. There's a few ways to build this whole thing. You can build it from the column itself. You can also build it from the automation center. If it doesn't really work for you, I'd recommend checking out the automation center to set it up from there. Then you're 100% sure that things will work. Tip 98 is about using custom AI. If you have a certain custom use case that is not really normal, the custom block is great for you. So what we do first is we go to the plus icon and we type custom. There you'll find the custom AI prompt. And you can literally type anything here. Just the more advanced you make it, the better the prompt will be and the better the results will be. So let's say I want you to determine if this task is a marketing or IT related task. You can get the data from this column and then we'll add the item name. If it's a marketing task, return marketing. If it's an IT task, return IT. Let's see if this will work. Let's click save and apply. I'm not going to apply it to the existing ones. Let's click save. And as you can see, it will now work. So let's create one. Let's do the MailChimp one again, see what happens. I have a question about marketing. Let's see, it should be a marketing thing. So let's see if it returns marketing. There you go, marketing. My PC is broken, please help. Should be an IT thing, so it should show IT. I actually like this a lot because you can make this as advanced as you want. If it doesn't immediately return the results that you want, just tweak the prompt, make it better, and at some point it will return the right thing at any time. If it still doesn't work well, just provide it a ton of examples and then it will definitely work well. Tip 99 and the final tip of this video is about automatically translating text in columns with AI. I actually had a client who worked with a foreign colleague who didn't speak English, so they had to translate everything. And with this feature, they saved so much time. It was very helpful. So if you click on this plus icon and go for translate, you will actually see the AI-powered translate feature. If you click there, it will show you this thing. So let's say we want to translate text, and we want to translate it to, for example, Spanish. Then we're going to save and apply, and that's actually all you need to do. So now what happens is it will automatically translate all your tasks, as you can see, to Spanish. Super helpful if you have a Spanish client or a Spanish colleague. You can do this with many other languages. And even if the language is not in this list that I just shown, you can also use the custom AI block to translate it to any language that you want. So if you work with foreign people, super helpful. Whoa, 99 tips was a lot more than I expected. I didn't really think it would take so long, but I think it was a lot of fun to create. Hopefully it was very valuable to you. If so, please leave a like. I would really appreciate it. If you need help with the custom implementation, you can always reach out to me via the link in the description. And if you want to receive free weekly newsletters about Monday.com tips and the newest and latest things, I would recommend that you sign up for my free newsletter, also in the description below. Thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate your time and I look forward to speaking to you again. Bye-bye.